بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. حياكم الله معنا في انطلاقة مشروع رحلة مبادر، واللي يتكون من 3 أيام. السبت اليوم إن شاء الله راح يكون برنامجنا عبارة عن الورشة العمل الأولى، واللي هي خارطة الطريق لبداية مشروع صحيحة. الورشة الثانية التطبيقات الاستراتيجية وتحليل سوق العمل للمشروعات الصغيرة والمتوسطة. ضيفنا اليوم راح يشاركنا من بريطانيا بروفيسور آشلي بريغانزا. ويلكم بروفيسور. في البداية بس أحب أنوه البروفيسور راح يتكلم باللغة الإنجليزية، فاللي حاب أنه هو يعني في مترجم للعربي تفضلوا عند الباب في الترانسليت. بس يعني نوصل لكم إياها. راح يكون يعني ترجمة فورية إن شاء الله. في البداية أو بداية ورشتنا الأولى اللي هي خارطة الطريق لبداية مشروع ناجحة. أعتقد أن يعني كل اللي في القاعة اليوم مهتمين في المشروعات الصغيرة، وأكيد أغلبكم مبادرين أو يعني يخططون لدخول هذا المجال، مجال المشروعات الصغيرة والمبادرين وتأسيس مشروعاتكم الخاصة في المستقبل القريب. فودي بس شوية يعني أسمع آرائكم. أنا حصلت آراء اللي شاركوا معنا في الاستبيان اللي وزعناه عبر مواقعنا في التواصل الاجتماعي وبعد بالإيميلات. ودي أسمع شنو المشاكل يعني اللي دخل هذا المجال، أو إذا تعرفون أحد دخل هذا المجال واجهتكم أو واجهت معارفكم أو أصدقائكم في بداية وتأسيس مشروع صغير. يعني أي تجربة أو أي فيدباك أو أي تحدي أو أي مشكلة حصلت لكم. تفضل. لا مو شغال، لا بعدين يصير إيكو. عليكم السلام.
جاسم مولاني، مبادر قديم.
نعم.
يعني عشان باب المشاركة، إذا في مشاكل على الموضوع المشروعات الصغيرة وبداية أي واحد يبدأ بالمجال هذا داخل دولة الكويت، المشكلة اللي من أول ما بديت أنا قديم بالمشروعات الصغيرة، الحكومة الدورة المستندية شيء جدا متعب، مع كل الجهود اللي قاعد تنبذل أنا أدري من وزارة التجارة ومن البلدية ومن التخطيط، بس ما زلنا في مرحلة بعيدة جدا قاعد تتعب المبادر. مو عارفين يلاقون حل يسهل، أن المبادر بالنهاية يبي ذش رحلة مبادر، يبي ذش رحلة عشان يبادر ويشوف الشغف اللي عنده ويبدأ يمشي فيه وينتج. قاعد يدور دورة مستندية وينسى المبادرة مالته. صار هم الأول والأخير يبي يخلص الدورة المستندية وما راح يخلص الدورة المستندية. هذه أول العقبات اللي ممكن تحوش أي مبادر.
مشكور، ما قصرت. في أحد عنده إذا تتكلم يعني تفضل. نعم. نعم. صحيح. الله يعطيك العافية.
عشان نترك المجال للآخرين.
الله يعطيك العافية. في أحد عنده تجربة وده يشاركنا فيها؟ نعم. في أحد عنده تجربة وده يشاركنا فيها؟ مشاكل، عقبات؟ تفضل.
لو سمحتوا بس الكراسي فيها ميكروفونين، يلي حابب يتكلم ممكن ياخذ الميكروفون في الكرسي.
بإيد الكرسي. إيه.
مساكم الله بالخير.
اضغط وتكلم. اضغط.
1
اي شغال.
شغال؟
اي شغال.
ايوه مساكم الله بالخير، يعطيكم العافيه. هي مو شركتي بالاصل، هي شركه ابوي الله يرحمه. الان انا مدير.
نعم.
واحنا قديمين.
نعم.
لكن انا من زمان يعني حبيت ابلش في سوق العمل كشركه بروحي يعني.
نعم.
غير الدوله المستنديه، الدوره المستنديه اللي تفضلوا فيها اخوان. اليوم احنا نتكلم عن عدم تكافؤ فرص.
نعم.
يعني في تجار كبار وفي طبقه متوسطه وفي طبقه حابه نفسي انا تبلش من الصفر.
نعم.
صار حسامي يبلش.
نعم.
الان عدم تكافؤ الفرص شلون؟ الكبير ما يخليك انت، ما يعطيك المجال تتنفس.
اي فالمنافسه في السوق تقتل المبادرين او يعني.
ثاني شيء هو يطالع اللي عندك قبل لا يطالع اللي عنده.
نعم.
فما يخليك تنافسه. هذا واحد. اثنين، ما عندنا دعوم. يعني
نعم.
انت بتبلش توقف على ريولك من نفسك بايور سيلف يعني.
نعم.
الان البروسيجر، الان دعم المشاريع الصغيره وهذا والروتين الممل اللي عندهم وغير الاجراءات، وما نبي نتكلم عنها بحساب بهذا. ولكن هذه مشاكل حقيقيه موجوده.
نعم.
الان خلي واحد يقدم على دعم المشاريع الصغيره. في عندنا نماذج يعني.
صحيح.
اوراق مركونه 3 سنين و4 سنين يعني. زين. عندنا العرض والطلب.
نعم.
اليوم العرض صار اكثر من الطلب.
صحيح.
فبالتالي هو قاعد يغطي احتياجات السوق في جميع المجالات ناهي.
نعم.
لو انا بجيب اي شيء جديد ما راح يطول 6 شهور، راح يدورون عليه، خاصة بالصناعات اليدوية انا اتكلم.
نعم.
اذا واحد عنده صناعة يدوية، حرفة يدوية، مو قادر يشتغل لان السوق غرقان بالمكاين، فبالتالي يدور الكاستمر يدور سعر ارخص. هذا اثنين. ثلاثة، الاوضاع الاجتماعية اللي قاعد تصير عندنا.
نعم.
اليوم 90% من الكويتيين مقترضين.
نعم.
وما يقدر يشتري بالكوست العالي انا اتكلم مثلا.
نعم.
زين انت مطلوب الكاستمر شنو يبي؟ يبي هاي كواليتي.
صحيح.
يبي جودة عالية، يبي بضاعة ممتازة.
نعم.
باللو كوست. زين انا شلون اوفرهم ثلاثة؟
صحيح.
هو تراينجل لازم يمشي. انا ما عندي الموضوع هذا.
نعم.
يبي انت لازم تدفع كوست عالي عشان اوفر لك كل شيء. زين. اخر شيء ما عندنا تطوير اداري.
نعم.
المشكلة بين الادارة والقيادة. مفهومين مختلفين بس قاعد يتوجهوا.
نعم.
بس احنا ما عندنا تطوير في يمكن انا اخر اكثر اسف طولت عليك الموضوع هذا. حقيقة هذه المشكلة تعرفنا.
نعم. الله يعافيك. بالنسبة حق النقاط اللي انطرحت، التحليل المالي أو مثل ما تفضل أخونا اللي هو شلون نوازن بين السعر والتكلفة والجودة وما نخل بين العناصر الأساسية لتقديم الخدمة أو المنتج، راح نناقشها إن شاء الله باكر في ورشة التحليل المالي. احنا اليوم نبدي يعني شفنا ان يعني 3 من المبادرين السابقين اللي دخلوا السوق واجهوا تحديات، فورشتنا الأولى راح تكون موجهة للمبادرين المقبلين على تأسيس مشاريعهم وتطوير الأفكار اللي عندهم من فكرة إلى مشروع تجاري. فهي خارطة طريق لبداية مشروع ناجحة. ما نقول مشروع ناجح، ولكن البداية تكون ناجحة. إذا كانت البداية تكون ناجحة، الاستقرار يكون نسبته أعلى، وبالتالي النجاح والاستمرار إن شاء الله يكون نسبته أعلى. خلينا نتعرف ما هو المبادر، من هو المبادر؟ نسمع وايد يعني في السوشيال ميديا، في الصحف، في التقارير التغطيات، المبادر. منو هو المبادر؟ شلون أصير مبادر؟ وين الأماكن أو النقاط اللي أحتاج أن أنا أكون عندي إياها كشخص أساس أن أنا أكون مبادر، أبدي بداية صحيحة، واقف على ريولي، واثق من نفسي، أبدي بداية ناجحة في مشروعي. أول نقطة هي المبادر هو رائد العمل، هو صاحب العمل، هو صاحب المشروع، هو صاحب الفكرة اللي عنده، هو القائد وهو العمود الفقري حق مشروعه، سواء كان مشروع تجاري ولا مشروع اجتماعي، مشروع ربحي، مشروع غير ربحي. كل صاحب هذه الفكرة وصاحب هذا المشروع اللي يحولها من فكرة في راسه وبس يتناقش فيها ولا يسولف مع معارفه، مع أصدقائه، مع أهله، إلى شيء واقعي تنفيذي في سوق العمل، سواء كان ربحي أو غير ربحي، هذا هو المبادر. طبعا هو مالك المشروع الصغير. ومن مواصفات المهمة حق المبادر اللي هو ياخذ القرار وياخذ يتحمل مسؤولية قراره، اللي احنا نسميها الريسك مانجمنت أو المجازفة. إذا ما كان هذه الصفة موجودة في الشخص، ما راح يكون متردد، ما عنده القدرة أنه هو ياخذ القرار، ما عنده القدرة أنه هو يحسم الأمور اللي المفروض يحسمها بالوقت الصحيح، وبالتالي تروح عليه فرص أو ممكن يواجه مشاكل لعدم اتخاذ القرار الصحيح بالوقت الصحيح. يمكن هني شوية أنا أذكر قصة من المبادرين. يعني الأمثلة اللي راح نقولها اليوم هي لمبادرين كويتيين أنا سمعتها منهم شخصياً، يمكن شوية غيرت وحورت فيها، والتغيير كان لأن أنا أدرس مادة ريادة الأعمال في كلية الكويت للعلوم والتكنولوجيا، وهذه الحالات نناقشها كجزء من المنهج الأكاديمي، فيعني للخصوصية شوية غيرنا غيرنا بعض النقاط في المشروع. أحد المبادرين عنده أفكار جدا جميلة، أفكاره مطلوبة بالسوق، عليها طلب وايد. السوق اللي هو يبدي فيه ما في مشاريع محلية، ما في شركات كويتية في هذا السوق. وطبعا في بعض المنتجات أو الخدمات نفضل المنتج الكويتي، نفضل المنتج لأنه هو يعني يعطينا حاجتنا، غير لما يصير شيء مستورد. في طبعا بعض الأمور لا، يعني استيراد البضاعات يعني مهم، ولكن في على الأقل الخدمات، لأن تقديم الخدمات من مشروع كويتي من مبادرين كويتيين يعني يلبي أو يسد حاجة السوق بشكل أفضل. مشكلة هذا المبادر عنده أكثر من فكرة، أسس الفكرة الأولى 20%، وبعدين انتقل إلى الفكرة الثانية، خلى الأولى تشتغل، لكن 20% مو كافي إنه يتوقف على ريولها. أسس الفكرة الثانية، والحين في باله إنه هو يأسس الفكرة الثالثة، متشتت بين الثلاثة، مو عارف يتخذ القرار وين يحط جهده، وين يحط الفلوس. النقطة الكبيرة أو السؤال أو الاستفهام، صرفت وايد، قاعد أصرف من جيبي الخاص. اي نعم، انا عندي دعم وعندي تمويل، ولكن ما قاعد يكفي، قاعد اصرف اكثر، ما قاعد احصل دخل. كل الايرادات قاعد تروح حق سداد الالتزامات اللي عندي، رواتب والايجار والمصاريف الثانيه الشهريه. انا في النهايه ما يصفى لي شيء. وين كانت المشكلة؟ المشكلة كانت لما قعدنا وحللنا الوضع ورسمنا الواقع اللي قاعد يشتغل فيه. ما عنده يوصل 20%، ما عنده القدرة انه يتخذ قرار حاسم انه هو ينتقل من مرحلة التأسيس الى مرحلة التطوير او المرحلة الثانية في مشروعه، وبالتالي ينتقل من مشروع الى الثاني، من الثاني كان يبي يروح حق الثالث. فنرجع حق نقطتنا اللي هو يتخذ القرار الصحيح، ياخذ المسؤولية، يتحمل تبعات القرار ويكمل في نفس الخط. هذه واحدة من أهم صفات المبادر، إنه يكون ناجح ويأسس مشروع مو بس ناجح. المشروع الناجح من أهم صفاته الاستقرار، إنه هو يستقر، الإيرادات تكون تقريبا بشكل شبه مستقر، يقدر يغطي كل مصاريفه الشهرية ويطلع له جزء يرضيه هو كصاحب عمل، أو على الأقل يقابل أو يوازن الجهد اللي قاعد يحطه في نهاية السنة المالية عنده في مشروعه. فإذا المبادر هو قائد الرحلة، هو رئيس كل شيء، هو العمود الفقري حق المشروع. ومثل ما تفضل أحد الأخوان في تعليقه، المنافسة كبيرة والسوق يتضمن شركات كبيرة عندها رأس مال ضخم، عندها طاقم كامل، ومشاريع صغيرة تعتمد على شخص أو شخصين أو بالكثير يعني يمكن من 10 إلى 50 شخص يديرون هذا المشروع. فشلون أنا أوظف الإمكانيات اللي عندي بالموارد المحدودة بالعدد الموظفين أو فريق العمل المحدود لأفضل نتيجة أو تقديم الخدمة أو المنتج للسوق، بالمقابل وأقدر أن أنا أنافس الشركات الكبيرة اللي موجودة قبل بالسوق. حياكم الله. نكمل موضوع بداية أو تأسيس المبادر وتأسيس المشروع الصغير. وقفنا عندنا المبادر هو المسؤول عن أو العمود الفقري حق المشروع، سواء كان ربحي سواء كان غير ربحي، وتحويل هذه الفكرة من فكرة خام إلى مشروع تنفيذي أو واقعي على أرض الواقع في سوق العمل. فإذا لبداية صحيحة المبادر لازم يكون عنده إدارة ذات عالية، عنده القدرة على اغتنام الفرص في اللي المناسبة لتأسيس وتطوير واستقرار مشروعه، والمفروض انه يفعل او تصنيف اللي يكون لها راس مال ضخم وموظفين او احد الامثله في هذا المجال اللي هو كفراتي. اعتقد ان احنا كلنا نعرف محل كفراتي اللي هو يعني يركز على كفرات الموبايلات، وايضا عنده كل الاكسسوارز اللي حق الموبايل. صاحب كفراتي علي وفيصل، يعني أنا أعرفه من أيام ما كان طالب بالجامعة، كان عنده موقع فنادق، وطبعا فنادق ما كان ربحي في البداية، كان خدمة مجتمعية، منتدى وموقع وفي أناشيد وفي رنات تليفون وفي مناقشات، ونقل هذا الموقع والقاعدة الجمهور اللي عنده والنتورك اللي عنده إلى مشروع تجاري، وبدأ أسس كفراتي قبل كم سنة بالكويت، وما شاء الله الحين عنده أكثر من فرع بالخليج، يمكن 4 أو 5. آخر واحد أعتقد في دبي كان الافتتاح قبل فترة. فعلي بدأ مبادر عنده الفكرة كانت غير ربحية في البداية، لما كان طالب جامعة مهندس كمبيوتر أو يدرس هندسة كمبيوتر، حولها إلى مشروع على أرض الواقع غير ربحي، وطور هذا المشروع إلى مشروع صغير ربحي في الكويت فرع واحد، والحين امتد إلى خارج الكويت بالخليج. وإحنا يعني أتوقع حق كفراتي إنه هو يطلع برا الخليج في يعني السنوات القادمة. فالمبادر المفروض إنه هو ما يفكر بس تأسيس، أنا زين، أنا أحب أطبخ، أنا عندي قدرة، أنا مهندس كمبيوتر، أسوي أبليكيشنز، راح أشتغل فريلانس وأشتغل من البيت ولكن يكون عندي النظرة. إذا ما كانت عندي أتعلمها، إذا ما كنت أقدر أتعلمها أستعين بخبراء إن أحط خطة لتطوير المشروع، وما أخلي مشروع صغير مثل ما يبدي مثل ما يستمر. تحقيق هذه الامور الثلاثه، اغتنام الفرص ونمو المشروع المبادر، اول نقطه انه يكون عنده شغف، انه هو يكون عنده فكره تحرق قلبه يبي ينفذها، ما ينام عشانها، يقرا عنها، يثقف روحه، كل مكان له علاقه في هذه الفكره يروح يتكلم يتناقش مع الناس المختصين فيها. فالشغف هذا وايد مهم و100% مهم، ولكن هل هو الوحيد او النقطه الوحيده اللي المفروض تكون عند المبادر اساس يبدي ويحول الفكره هذه او الشغف الى مشروع ناجح وقابل للتطوير؟ لا، مو كافي. النقطه الثانيه، لازم المبادر يعرف شنو القيم، شنو الاساسيات اللي هو او هي راح يشتغلون على اساسها، وين راح يكون تركيزهم. هل هم راح يركزون على الجو واكون انا بالصف الاول في مشروعي، او ان انا اكون ويكون اكو موظف الامور تتحدد في البدايه عشان يكون عنده قدره انه هو يحدد، يكون عنده القدره انه هو يحددها او يتخذ القرار وين يروح في شركته او في مشروعه. الاستعداد النفسي، النقطه اللي سبق تناقشنا فيها ان هي لازم يكون عنده قدره المخاطره. وعلى حسب تقرير منظمه المشروعات الصغيره الدوليه في 2018 ان المدرسه والمبادرين الكويتيين ما عندهم مشكله في الاقدام واخذ المخاطره اخذ الخطوه الاولى. والخطوه الاولى خطوه كبيره، ان انا احط راس مال واستثمرها في مشروع انا ما اعرف راح ينجح، يحقق لي ارباح، ايش كثر الربح اللي راح يحقق لي اياه، راح اقدر استرد راس مالي او ما راح اقدر استرده. طبعا اكيد اكو خطط، ولكن الواقع يكون يعني ممكن يكون يعني متماشي مع الخطه اللي نحطها، ممكن يكون مختلف مع الخطه اللي نحطها، وطبعا في اسباب وايد تحدد هذا الشيء. فهل انا عندي استعداد نفسي؟ هل انا عندي المهارات الكافيه؟ عندي اياها خير وبركه، هذا يعني خير من رب العالمين. ابدي. انا ما عندي، اروح اتعلم، احدد الشيء اللي انا بتعلمه، اللي اقدر اتعلمه، واختصر على انه روحي المسافه او الطريق، الشيء اللي طريقه طويل ان انا اتعلمه، اروح حق الناس المختصين او اوظف لي احد من فريق العمل يغطي النقص اللي انا عندي. بس انا اقول لكم شيء عني، انا مو زينه في الامور الاداريه او في المتابعه اليوميه، فانا ما اتابع. انا عندي وين سامي برا الله يعطيه العافيه هو اللي ماخذ هذا الجانب، لان لو كنت انا بسويه كنت بزعل وايد ناس مني. ما ارد على طول على الواتساب، ما اشوف ايميلي على طول، اكو وايد امور ما اقدر اسويها او انا مو قويه في هذا الجانب. فانا مقسمه الادوار، انه هو ياخذ هذا الجانب لانه ما شاء الله قوي في هذا الشيء، وانا امسك المحتوى وامسك الامور اللي ما لها علاقه مباشره مع الناس بحيث ما يزعلون مني. فهذا جزء من الاستعداد النفسي، ان انا اعرف قدراتي واعرف اوظف فريق العمل بناء على القدرات اللي عندي. الفرص، يعني احنا قلنا الحين بناء على تقرير الهيئة العامة أو العالمية للمشروعات الصغيرة أن الكويتيين أو المبادر الكويتي والشاب الكويتي عنده القدرة وما عنده مشكلة أنه ياخذ الخطوة الأولى ويقدم على المخاطرة ويبدي استثماره. وين يبدي؟ هذا السؤال اللي وايد نسأله. أنا أبي أبدي مشروع، وين تنصحيني؟ أنا على وجه تقاعد، بس أنا ما أبي أقعد في البيت، ما أبي أشتغل أكمل في الوظيفة، وأبي أبدي مشروع، إيش رايك؟ أنا أحب أسوي كذي، بس حتى هذا شيء زين وهذا نصحوني فيه، وين أروح؟ وين أبدي؟ شلون أوظف الوقت اللي عندي والطاقة اللي عندي في مشروع يحقق لي أنا سعادة ذاتية أو رضا ذاتي، وإذا كان بعد في مردود مادي خير وبركة. فالفرص موجودة، في فرص لأفكار مبتكرة وجديدة، وإن شاء الله راح نشوف يوم الاثنين يشاركونا طلبة كلية العلوم والتكنولوجيا في أفكارهم ومشاريعهم اللي اشتغلوا فيها بيتهم خطوة خطوة، ومشاريع مبتكرة في الناحية أو النقطة الثانية اللي هي توفير منتجات. هل أنا أبي أوفر منتج، يعني أبي أبيع منتج ملموس للسوق؟ هل أنا أبي أقدم خدمة؟ هذا مجال ثاني اللي هو تقديم الخدمات على اختلاف أنواعها. هل أنا أبي أسس لي مشروع اللي هو أنا أحسن الإجراءات اللي موجودة، يعني في بعض المشاريع اللي موجودة أو المشاريع الشبابية والصغيرة، الاستشارات مو شرط استشارات إدارية، ممكن استشاراتنا أنا أخلص لك الإجراءات تأسيس مشروعك. اكو ما شاء الله شباب عندهم يعني فريق عمل مختص في هذا الامور، يخلص الاجراءات الروتينيه اللي اخوان في بدايه الورشه قالوا ان هي تاخذ وقت وجهد من المبادر. فهل انا ابي اتجه الى تحسين الاجراءات، الى تاسيس مشروع يحسن لي الاجراءات الموجوده؟ أنا التطوير التقني أو استغلال التكنولوجيا في حياتنا اليومية؟ هل أنا أبي أروح حق الفرص الاجتماعية، أسس لي مشروع اجتماعي، خدمات اجتماعية، ممكن يكون يطلع ربح قليل بس أساس يمشي نفسه، ولكن أنا ما أبي ربح، أبي أسس مشروع يخدم المجتمع، يخدم فئة معينة أنا مهتمة في تطويرهم أو مهتم في تطويرهم. هل أنا أبي أروح حق الفرص البيئية اللي هي تأسيس المشاريع اللي تخدم البيئة وتحسن الأداء البيئي عندنا في دولة الكويت؟ هني هي السؤال، وأطلب منكم اللي قاعد بروحه يقعد يم أحد شخص ثاني، لأن هذا تمرين عملي يحتاج كل اثنين يم بعض يتناقشون في هذا الشيء، اللي هي وين الفرصة اللي أنا أبي، أو وين المجال اللي أنا أبي أدخل فيه، وين المكان اللي أنا أبي أبدي فيه، وليش؟ ليش أنا اخترت مثلا المجال التقني أو مجال تطوير الإجراءات أو المجال البيئي أو الاجتماعي؟ أنا ما بي مشروع ربحي. فهني هذا أول سؤال لبداية صحيحة. هني البروفيسور آشي لما سوى السلايدات كتب بس واحدة، لماذا؟ أنا اللي درستهم الكورس اللي فات أقول لهم اللي يبي فعلا يوصل حق أصل إلى هذه النقطة أو هذا الموضوع، هو فعلا اللي يبي يسأل لماذا 5 مرات. في ناس قالوا 7، في ناس قالوا 9، إحنا نقول 5. فلما نقول لماذا والجواب أرد أسأل لماذا لما أوصل 5 هني فعلا هذا الموضوع يكون تأكدت إنه هو صحيح اللي أنا فعلا أبيه. فناخذ 10 دقائق في هذا التمرين، بعد إذنكم تناقشون في يعني 2 ونرجع مرة ثانية مع بروفيسور آشلي ونكمل معاكم الورشة. في أحد بيشاركنا النقاش؟ تفضل. هذا سهل.
السلام عليكم. السلام عليكم. معكم فتحي صالح.
لا بس الحين هذا أساس المترجمة إذا تسمع صوتك.
السلام عليكم. معكم أختكم صار ويح. أنا عندي شغف قوي شديد اللي هو المحافظة على البيئة وتقليل النفايات والريسايكل. فصار لي متقاعدة وتخصصي علمي تقريبا، يعني مختبرات طبية، متقاعدة أحاول أطبق هذا الشيء في بيتي وأسرتي. بس طلعت برا فجأة شفت ما شاء الله الكويت فيها خير وايد، وفيها جروبات تطوعية وفيها شغلات نفس الهدف اللي هم الهدف اللي أنا أحلم فيه. الحين شفت ما شاء الله وايد يشتغلون، بس في شغلة فيها نقص في الكويت اللي هي التخلص من النفايات الخطرة في الكويت. عندنا النفايات الخضراء في كل مكان، في البيت في نفايات خضراء، في المستشفيات في نفايات خضراء، في المعاهد العلمية نفايات خضراء، في المصانع حتى نفايات خضراء. كل هاي راح تاثر على بيئتنا، هي من زمان تاثر على بيئتنا. الناس يعني ممكن الوضع السطحي، لا احنا ما قاعد سوري، الناس يقولون لا احنا قاعد نسوي نفايات وكذي شغلات يعني وايد ممتازه، بس هذه اخطر من اي شيء. مثلا انا على سبيل المثال صار لي يمكن 10 سنين في البيت اقلل النفايات، اسوي ريسايكل، اسوي كومبوست، اسوي، بس الشيء المهم عندي لحد الحين قاعد احصره بس ما لقيت له تخلص من النفايات، اللي هو بطاريات هذه اللي نحطها حق الالعاب وحق كل شيء، احطها بقرشه جزاز وهي معدنه، بس ما في بالكويت اي مصدر او اي مكان يهتم في هذا النفايات. عندنا الجلوبات الصينيه الدائريه هاي اللي فيها مواد مشعه، كنت استعملها اول ما نزلت البيت، بعدين عرفت انها غلط، قلت اشيلها واستبدل بالافضل، بس انا قلبي ما يطاوعني ادقها بالزباله، لان ادري هي قاعده تعطي اشعاعات. طبعا يمكن بس انا الوحيده او معاي 1% من الناس يؤمنون بهذا الشيء ويحتفظون فيه، الباقي مو عارفين خطورتها، بس كاهي عندي اياها فوق 10 سنين، كرتون مال حليب موجودين مجمعين ما قادره اتخلص منهم. اذا انا داخل بيت مواد خطره مو قادره اتخلص منه. عندك مثلا نفس الشيء التليفونات والموبايلات، الحين طولت انا بالحكي، كل هالحكي كان مقدمه عشان مشروع خيري غير ربحي، هو انت تاسيس مركز المحافظه على البيئه عن طريق التخلص من المواد الخطره. طبعا هذا المركز راح يكون كبير، المفروض يكون هذا المركز حكومي صح، بس للاسف انا سالت اهل البلديه، الاخت زميلتي وصديقتي ومعي في نفس الفكره تشتغل بلديه، وحضرت مره اجتماع مع البيئه وسالتهم بالضبط عندكم مشروع للتخلص من الجلوبات هذه والهات؟ يقول لا اخر شيء عندكم ولا لا؟ يقول لا ما عندنا آلية بالكويت. قلت له ما تقدرون تطبقونها. فانا كفرت حلمي اني انا واللي متخصصين ننشأ هذا المشروع، بس لازم نصيغه عشان نلقى دعم عشان نطبق هالمشروع وايد ضخم، المفروض هذا على مستوى حكومه مو على الافراد، بس ما دام الحكومه غافله احنا نسوي. يعني اذا الله سبحانه وتعالى بارك لنا، انا عندي هالشغف ومؤمنه ان ان شاء الله في يوم من الايام يتحقق هذا الشيء.
ان شاء الله باذن الله. واعتقد انه اذا يعني لقيت لك مجموعه وبديتوا فيه ممكن انه هو يتطور ويتنفذ، يعني ينتقل من انه هو شغف ولا فكره الى تطبيق واقعي باذن الله. في احد ثاني ممكن يشاركنا؟ سامي.
السلام عليكم. أنا صاحبة حساب كويتو. فكرتي في البداية لأني أنا أحب القهوة وشغوفة فيها إنه ما راح أفتح كافيه، لأن أعتقد الكويت مدرسة كافيهات. كنت مفكرة بالفود تراك وأسوي كيترينج، فلما شفت البروسيجرز مالها لقيت إن الوضع صعب جدا بالنسبة حقي. أنا ألاقي مستحيل إني أقدر أروح حق تقريبا كل وزارات الكويت أو الإدارات اللي بالكويت بس عشان ترخيص وعمالة وهذا، فما لقيت فيه دعم كافي، او مو الدعم يعني عفوا ان الاجراءات الاداريه وايد تستهلك الطاقه البشريه، وايد تستهلك الوقت، وايد تستهلك يعني الامور الماديه اوكي مقدور عليها، لكن فكره الفود تراك هذه توها جديده بالكويت وما انتشرت وقاعد تنتشر ببساطه شديده، وانا ما لقيت القهاوي موجوده وايد فيها تراكس، اكثر شيء الفود والهامبرجر وهالسوالف هذه. لكن حاليا انا لما شفت الاجراءات صعبه جدا توقفت عن الفكره، صرت اركز على شيء ثاني اللي هو تاريخ القهوه. صرت ميولي صارت يعني من قهوه الى تكنولوجيا بس مختصه في القهوه. اقدر اقول بلوجر بس ببداياتي، قاعد اسوي عن الهيستوري اوف كوفي، القهوه التركيه ليش سموها قهوه تركيه، المكاين مالت القهوه شلون تستخدم، في اشياء منزليه نقدر نستعيد عن عفوا نقدر نعوض عنها. المكاين في آلات بسيطة أقدر أستخدمها بالبيت. فأنا توجهت من فكرة كوفي تراك إلى أن أركز على الهيستوري أوف كوفي، قلت ظل إلى أن الإجراءات تصير يعني. وشكرا.
ان شاء الله قريب تكون.
شكرا.
في احد ثاني؟ تفضل.
على الاخوان اللي ما شاء الله كلهم يعانون من الاجراءات الحكوميه.
نعم.
اللي سمعها. زين؟ حسب المقدمه اللي عندي هنا لا يسمعون عنه.
لا بس اساس المترجم يسمع حق الدكتور.
حسب المقدمة اللي عندي هنا يعني شيء يشرح الصدر. يعني اخذي مثال يعني وتحرص الكويت على تطوير المبادرين وتشجيع رواد الأعمال وتهيئة البيئة المناسبة لتحفيز انطلاقاتهم في مشاريع خلاقة صغيرة أو متوسطة وتعزيز مهاراتهم الكوادر الوطنية وتوفير البيئة المستقرة والإطار الملائم لأعمالهم التجارية بما يساهم في نجاح تلك المشاريع. زين كانوا يعانون الحين شنو الكلام هذا؟ غير اللي نسمعه احنا من الشباب.
والله
هذا بالضبط
نعم
عكس اللي نسمعه. هذا الاخت واحده قالت، هذا الاخ قال هني واخت قال هني. الله يرحم والديكم.
الله يسلمك. مشكور ما قصرت. طبعا احنا ما نقول احنا وصلنا في الكويت في المدينه الفاضله، اكيد في لا اكيد في يعني نواقص، اكيد في مشاكل، لكن يعني الخوات اللي هني اليوم قاعد يتكلمون قاعد يقولون في اماكن في الحكومه لها في اطرحت مناقصات بس حق المشروعات الصغيره، لكن المبادرين ما يعرفون للحين. في جزء من كلامك صحيح، اكيد الاجراءات الروتين الحكومي مثل ما تفضل الاخوان الدوره المستنديه، اي الدوره المستنديه صحيح، لكن اذا انا مبادر وهذا الوضع اللي عندي شلون اكيف نفسي وشلون اطور من مهاراتي واستغل يعني الموارد اللي حواليني ان انا اتخطى واعدي هذا الشيء بحيث ان احصل على النتيجه اللي انا ابيها.
كلام سليم بس
نعم.
بس الواقع غير. الواقع غير.
طبيعي. الطبيعي يعني انا
فرق الواقع هذا سووا لهم مركز شباب يخلص مشاكلهم ومعاملاتهم بدل ما يعجزون على وزارات روح مني روح مني. انتم لكم مركز خاص فيكم انتم كناس مسؤولين. انت يعني مسؤوليتكم غير وغير وغير.
لا انا ما سووا مركز صار في كل حاجه ما عندي هذا الشيء. اي يعني في بالضبط الحين صندوق الكويت للمشروعات الصغيره بدأوا الديوانيات المتخصصه، يعني كل اسبوعين او 3 عندهم تجمع حق يعني كان اصحاب المطاعم، بعدين صار حق اصحاب الفود تراك، قبلها كان المشاريع التقنيه، فهذه الحين وكل اسبوعين يسوون حق المناقصات. يعني الكل قاعد يبذل الجهد اللي يقدر عليه. نوصل حق المدينه الفاضله اكيد ما راح نقدر نوصل، ولكن الواحد يحاول ان شاء الله. ان شاء الله. في احد يبي يشاركنا؟ تفضل. بس يا ريت تختصر بس عشان ما يعني ناخذ
إيجاب. لا راح أختصر.
ما تقصر. تسلم.
أنا مشروعي عبارة عن مشكلة شخصية عندي.
نعم.
أنا كنت أوفر ويت.
نعم.
أوفر ويت صدق وسويت عملية تكميم.
نعم.
بعد العملية هذه قعدت أقرأ وايد، اكتشفت إن النيوتريشن سيستم أساسا نظام التغذية عندنا كل الخليجي أو العربي كلش ويك. المشروع اللي عندي هو اجتماعي. ايضا هو ضمن توفير المنتجات. لان توفير المنتجات هذا يكون هيلثي فود. جاء اجتماعي هو تاسيس نيوتريشن سنتر، مركز نيوتريشن هيلث سنتر، مركز تغذيه صحي شامل. اليوم احنا بالكويت قاعد نعاني من المرضى السكري، في يوم من الايام كنت اعاني. وسبب سوء التغذية عندنا. زائد مشاكل السيطرة المواجهة العادي مع الأسف ما عندنا أي نظام غذائي أو سيستم، حتى الحكومة عندنا إدارة تغذية مو قاعد تحل المشاكل لأنهم مو بالوعي هذا. ففي شغلات اليوم عندنا مراكز تغذية بيع نقاط بيع موجودة، بس شنو احتياجات الجسم البشري ما يعرفونه. زائد اخصائيين تغذيه مش دكاتره التغذيه. عندنا اخصائي تغذيه مو انسان متخصص بروفيشنال كي يعرف اسلوب التغذيه. يعني ابسط مثال انا خليني اطرح شيء احد الشغلات نسميها بالعربي يسمونها الكولاجين. اليوم يحطون ماده حق اللي يسوون عمليات تجميل. الكولاجين هذا فعال عضلي. هو المسؤول عن تحويل سكر الجلوكوز من الجسم اللي يستفيد منه العضله. زين هذا كم سكر ما حد يدري. شنو الاستفاده منه تحديدا بالجسم ما حد يدري. فهذا المشروع اللي تحديدا ان التطوير مركز اجتماعي ايضا يكون صحي
صحي واجتماعي.
بالضبط.
الله يعطيك العافيه. نختم في الاخت اللي ورا.
السلام عليكم. أنا حابة أضيف معلومة. يمكن البعض قاعد يقول إحنا قاعد نعاني بالكويت كذي من الدورة المستندية. سنة 2016 في الكويت تحديدا وزارة التجارة أسست مركز الكويت للأعمال الحرة. المركز هذا وظيفته أن المبادر يدش أونلاين يقدر يسوي الترخيص التجاري ماله، ما راح يعني يحوس على الوزارات أو شيء كذي. فأنا مستغربة إن شلون هم قاعد يعانون وإحنا عندنا مركز الكويت للأعمال الحرة.
لا احنا ما نقول ما في معاناة، في معاناة، وحتى لو كان في مركز وأنا رحت أكثر من مرة وأكيد طابور طويل، ولكن يعني الجهات المختصة والحكومية والغير حكومية والغير ربحية والربحية كلها قاعد يعني توجه جهودها لحل هذه المشاكل وتقديم الأفضل. مشكورة وأنا ما قصرت. سامي آخر تعليق.
بداية ودي أشكركم على الجهود الطيبة هذه. عندي شقين، الشق الأول هو قضية بالنسبة للمشاكل والأمور هذه. نعم هناك في شغلتين، اللي الدورة المستندية المملة. الأمر الآخر اللي هو اوبريشن كوست في الكويت عالي جدا. وهذه أنا ملاحظ معظم الفرص ومعظم المشاريع قاعدة تطرح في السوق هي مشاريع استهلاكية. احنا حاولنا من الأخوة الزملاء يعني نذكر شغلات، بس أعطي مثال اللي هو الفود تراكس. لو شوية تحديداتهم حقيقة الواحد ينحاش. هنا فكرنا نجيب نشتغل في مجال الصابون الطبيعي الهاي كواليتي. لما تزال الشروط حق المصانع اعتذروا، لان فقط الحصول على تقييد الاستيراد في الكويت مع الواسطه يبي 6 اشهر. امور تعجز يعني. لكن احنا طبعا ما عندنا روحيات الحمد لله قادمين بالسجن. فالان مع زملائي من المسائلين والجماعه قاعد يفكر في المجال اللي هو الانترنت اوف ثينجز لايك او تي. ولكن يا فيروس كورونا بكسر الحين.
الله يعطيك العافيه.
هذه الفرص يعني انا اتصور في فرص وايد وسوق المغري جيد. ولكن هذه شغله يعني هي قضيه الدوله المستديمه ممله زائد الاوبريشن كوست وايد عالي.
الله يعطيك العافيه.
Good evening.
Good evening.
Hello. Assalamu alaikum. Good evening. So, a bit of a change in pace. Firstly, a change in language, because I'm going to speak in English. The headsets, that headset will translate from Arabic to English. But if I have the headset and the mic on at the same time, then there's feedback in the earpiece. So if you speak Arabic, I just need to know, because then I'll put that on. Otherwise, there's too much of a disturbance. Some very interesting comments. Yes, and the other challenge is I've got my slides in English and they're up there in Arabic. So I'm going to have to kind of match the words here and the words there. Just by way of introduction, because I don't think we've had a chance to meet, I thought I should just spend a few minutes at least to tell you who I am before I launch off. So my name is Ashley Braganza. I'm a professor at Brunel University in London. My area is looking at how do organizations grow, how do organizations change. So how do you take small enterprises and make them big? How do you take big enterprises and get them to act like they're small enterprises? Because the challenges that you've talked about, whether it's regulation, paperwork, bureaucracy, red tape, I made a whole list of them on my page here, okay? I'd like you to think that it would be, I'm sorry to say this, it would be great if you were the only ones that had this problem and I didn't, or we didn't elsewhere. I can assure you that this is an issue in virtually every country I've ever worked in. Speak to anyone that is either starting a business or running a business, and they will tell you almost the same thing. There is way too much bureaucracy. Things take too long. Trying to get any kind of approvals for doing certain things can take an inordinate period of time. In some countries, it can take up to 12 months, 18 months to just start and register a business. I mean, you know, leave aside applying for licenses, leave aside applying for anything, just to get a business started can take that long. So I think some of the issues that you've talked about are ones that I'm reasonably familiar with from work that I've done with organizations elsewhere. In addition to my work as a professor at Brunel, I also have an academic role, an administrative role at Brunel. I'm the deputy dean of one of the colleges, which make up roughly just over 50% of the university. So I also work with running a large part of the college and the university. I also work with organizations, so I work with businesses. As I said, I've worked with a number of small businesses, both in the UK and elsewhere, particularly in India. And I've also worked with some large businesses, because in large businesses, you end up with businesses that kind of get stuck in doing the same thing. You've got new entrants, small businesses that come in and want to take their business off them. And these big businesses want to know how they can behave in an entrepreneurial way. Okay, so I have kind of applied a lot of what I'm going to talk to you about. I've actually applied in real businesses and in real situations. So I thought I should tell you a little bit about me before I get started. And as we get into this, I also thought I should start also by saying thank you to Dr. Noof for working with me and organizing this event, which I think is really interesting, to kind of bring together people who are like-minded, people who are entrepreneurial, because I think there is a great deal of strength to be gained by sharing issues and by opening a discussion and opening a dialogue. So let me move the story on so far, because what we wanted to do is just kind of get things started, open things up in terms of what is an entrepreneur, what are some of the issues that entrepreneurs face, and how does this kind of go. So what we want to do is move on to different types, different choices, okay, different choices of entrepreneurial businesses. Very often when people talk about entrepreneurs and entrepreneurial businesses, there's always this assumption that there's only one type. And I've heard people talk about social enterprise and doing things from a social point of view as opposed to from a business point of view. But as you can imagine, in the world that we're living, with all the technology that's now taking place, there is a great deal of interest in how technology can drive and help drive entrepreneurial activities as well. So what I wanted to do is just spend a few minutes talking about these different types of enterprises, these different types of entrepreneurial enterprises. So let's just talk about social enterprises. And I mean, I'm not going to linger here too much, because clearly from the conversation and some of the discussion that just took place, it's clear that you have understood the notion of the social enterprise. So it's really about looking at what are some of the social issues, what are the things that affect people, and how do we solve the problems that affect people. And part of that, very often, is that social enterprises are created on a not-for-profit basis, okay? And English is an interesting language, and people play words, and people use words in very subtle ways in the English language. And not-for-profit does not mean making a loss, okay? I've seen organizations that have been not-for-profit, and they have been hugely profitable. If you take some of the biggest charities, certainly in the West and certainly in the UK, if you take some of the biggest charities, they are social enterprises. They are not-for-profit, and yet they make very healthy profits every year. And they are very commercial in what they do. They are very commercially orientated in what they do. They internally, yes. So just because it's a social enterprise doesn't mean it's not for profit. And they run like a business, albeit they run like a business in order to solve some social issue or some social problem. And people talk about this notion of the triple bottom line. So whereas traditional businesses kind of focus on profits, if you look at social enterprises, they're really interested in what is this going to do for the population? What is this going to do for society? What's this going to do in terms of profit? And more importantly, what's it going to do in terms of the planet and the environment? And it was very interesting to hear about the whole issue about recycling and this whole notion of reuse, repurposing some of the things that we use in the house, that we use in business on a day-to-day basis. How do we deal with some of that? I don't know if you've come across this notion of the bottom of the pyramid. So there is a, if you look globally, the bottom of the pyramid typically describes people who are living on less than $2 a day. Now that's a huge number of people. And while any one individual doesn't have massive spending power, collectively, because they are so big in number, there is a huge amount of purchasing power when you look at that segment of people in the bottom of the pyramid. And there's some very interesting activities. There are some very interesting businesses that have been set up targeting and focusing particularly on that segment of the market. And as we go through, both later today and tomorrow, we're going to keep coming back to this notion of which segment of the market are you interested in? Which segment of the market are you focused on? And if you look at those enterprises that have got going in these social enterprises, very often when you look across them, actually there are some very interesting common issues. And usually they've been started by people. Very often by one person, but often it's by a team of people, albeit one person becomes the face of the social enterprise. But very often it's a group of people that they kind of get it going. But what these people have in common is they have a real passion to go and solve a particular problem. They're not trying to solve every problem. They're not trying to do everything. They just start with saying, we're just trying to do that little bit there. Just that little bit. And if we can get that little bit there, then we can start to think about what else we can do elsewhere. And so I'll give you some examples, and these are just two. Mohammed Yunus, Grameen Bank, microfinance, microcredit. Now, the poor people, the poor people's bank, banker to the poor people, right? And what he said is, actually, if you look at what it takes to get, and he started this in Bangladesh, if you look at what it takes to get somebody started at a very base level, at a very, very basic job, and someone who wants to just sweep the streets, right? To sweep the streets, by and large, you need two things. You need a broom, you need some kind of brush, and you need a pan where you put the dirt in. Right? But if you don't have any money, if you don't have enough to feed your family, if you don't have enough to clothe your children, if you don't have enough to get food on the table, then to say I want to be an entrepreneur, and my entrepreneurial idea is to get a brush and a pan so I can make some money over there, doesn't sound very glamorous, does it? Sweeping streets, not hugely. But that's going to be my patch, and I'm going to work over there, and I'm going to sweep the streets over there, and I'm going to earn my money on my own. I'm going to be the boss of that little street over there, and that's what I'm going to do. Well, if you haven't got that, whatever your passion is, whatever the will is, however much you might want to do it, you can't do it. And his point was, actually, in the community, in that local community that the person is from, if they can get together in that community and put some money together, put even small amounts together, and create a small fund, then actually, maybe one person can afford to go and get the brush and the pan to get started. And so this notion of microfinance, this notion of giving people some funding to kind of get started, was his idea, and now it's a global phenomenon. Tracy Chambers, clothing. What do you do with your clothes? Or when you get fed up of wearing the same suit or the same shirt or whatever it is, right? What do you do with it? Well, she said, actually, what we can do is recycle it. We can find ways to get these clothes to people who can't afford them. We can find ways of creating a clothing bank. Okay. And from a clothing bank, she's spread out into other, she's got an appliance bank now. And so she's moved on to into other things, but she started small. She started in one part. Khan Academy. Anybody, if you've got kids, you probably know Khan Academy, right? And that's just one guy who said, because his niece and nephew kept calling him up and saying, help me solve this maths problem. I don't get this maths problem. Help me solve this maths problem. And so he was in one part of the world, she was in another part of the world. It was all being done on the phone and then being done by Skype. And he said, hang on a minute, I could create another system here. Now, Khan Academy is really interesting because he could have commercialized that. He could have made it a subscription channel, right? And let's be honest, as parents, most of us would have paid $5 a month, whatever, $10 a month, if our kids could get some from maths help in a nice, easy, and not just maths now, it's everything, right? Virtually every subject is covered there. And he said, no, I'm going to give it away for free. Let people come in and learn. That's what this is about. So I give you this as an idea, right? So when he started, he did not do every subject. He did not do everywhere. He just started with a handful of maths problems, and from there he kind of expanded out, and then it grew. Well, Bill Gates saw it actually. Bill Gates, apparently the story is that Bill Gates, one of Bill Gates's children, kept using this website and saying, I don't need my teachers anymore, I just get it from Khan Academy. And that's when Gates got involved, and the rest of the history. So all I'm saying is, this notion of social entrepreneurship, okay, and social enterprises is one where if that's where you are, if that's where you want to go, then I would say start small. Start small, start focused. Don't try to do too much, because if you try to do too much, you end up in all the situations and some of the things that I heard through the course of the earlier part of the discussion. It becomes, all of a sudden the amount of red tape, the amount of bureaucracy, the amount of activity that's needed starts to increase quite significantly. Suddenly the capital that's needed, the amount of money to start the business starts to expand, and then all of a sudden it just becomes a big thing. And so part of what we're talking about is maybe you need to think about how you start small. Yes, thank you. I don't need to tell you about business entrepreneurs, do I? I mean, business entrepreneurs and people who start business entrepreneur companies, I mean, usually they've got a really clear focus as well. Yes, they've got a passion. Yes, they've got an idea. But by golly, they want to commercialize it, okay? Their aim is, how do I, as a friend of mine says, how do I get to the 10th million fastest, okay? And they're very focused on how they do that. And they assemble a team. It's very rare for any of these individuals to do it completely on their own. They pull together a team, they pull together the people that are going to help them, they pull together the expertise in order to get that done. And I'll give you some of these as examples. Top left, Richard Branson, Virgin Airlines. Yeah? Do you know how he started his business? He started selling, for those of you who are, some of you are too young to remember, so you're too young to remember, I can tell. Do you remember cassettes? Yes. Really? I thought I'd be the only one who knows cassettes. All right, so you remember? I tell my daughter, cassettes, she goes, what's that, Dad? You know, younger dads, they don't even know what cassettes are. He started selling cassettes and records on a cart. On a hand cart, not even in a shop. Oprah Winfrey, now one of the, she suffered. If you really want to see someone who has made something of her life from starting from almost nowhere with nothing, honestly, read about her and just have a look at what she's done through her life. She had it, I mean, you name it, she's had to overcome it in order to get to where she is. And I could go on. I mean, I only put that last one in. Ray Kroc, the guy who started McDonald's, right? And I don't need to tell you anything about McDonald's, but I thought this quote was interesting. And that is, if you're going to get into business, if you're going to be an entrepreneur, then one of the things that you've got to start to think about is, what's the risk? Yeah, challenges are different. Challenges are different to risk. A risk is, if I stand here, right? If I stand here and I get closer and closer to the edge, there is a risk, there is a possibility, and risk is about probability, yes? There is a chance, and we can work out the chance by way of a percentage, right? So I can work out a percentage chance of me falling over or me staying safe. There's a risk, yeah? You see? Now, you might say, he seems fairly steady on his feet when he was down there. He seems reasonably stable, yeah? He shouldn't fall over. You're probably thinking that. So if I said to you, go on, what are the chances? What is the risk of me falling over? High, medium, or low? Where would you put it? Low, right? It's a low risk. It's a low risk. So I can stand here. I know it's a low risk. You know it's a low risk. What's the problem? There's no risk, you see. So what ends up happening very often is, if you're going to take up a business, then if you are in a situation where, a bit like me, you're standing at the edge, and you think, if it doesn't work, it's all right. There won't be a problem. I'll still be able to take my holiday where I go. I'll still be able to feed the kids. I'll still be able to live in the house that I've always lived in. I'll still be able to. I'm still alive, more than still alive. I can go to my favorite shop and buy my favorite things. Life goes on, right? That's the equivalent of me standing here going, yeah, so what's the risk again? Low. Nothing's going to happen. So when I talk about being willing to take a risk, I'm talking about saying, you know, if this doesn't work out, there's going to be some serious pain. If this doesn't work out, I'm going to feel some serious discomfort. So when you're talking about your business, you see, when you're talking about starting up a business, part of what I say to companies, part of what I say to individuals, entrepreneurs who want to get started is, how uncomfortable are you? How uncomfortable are you? Because if you're really uncomfortable, then that usually means there's some risk. But actually, if you're fairly comfortable, because life will go on, and things will just roll on, if it works, it works. If it doesn't work, it doesn't work. Then I would say you're in a situation where there's no risk. And if there's no risk, then very often that motivation that entrepreneurs talk about having, that drive, this word passion gets used a lot, and I put it up there, and we've talked about it a little earlier. Actually, this word passion has a number of meanings, right? So one meaning of this word passion is optimistic, right? Something that we care about. We are passionate about something. I'm passionate about my children, you see. I'm passionate about this. It's about caring for something, feeling, a very strong feeling towards something. But actually, passion also has another meaning, which is around I'm passionate because if it doesn't work, the downside is really high. Therefore, I've got to be flexible. And I've got to start to think about what am I going to do if it doesn't work out. Now, if you're not thinking that, then I would say some of that risk is quite low. And entrepreneurs, as this guy says, you need to think about, are you willing to take a risk? And how big is that risk that you're willing to take? And all entrepreneurs need to think about that at some point. Tech businesses is another area, okay? And this is anywhere, certainly in the West, if there is a growth area in terms of entrepreneurs, then it's looking at tech businesses. And a few years ago, if I said to you, and I'm not talking many years ago, if I said to you, YouTuber, well, most people wouldn't understand it, right? But YouTubers and bloggers, some of you up there said they have a blog, YouTubers and bloggers are now the entrepreneurs of today, right? Because what they're doing is they're taking their passion, they're taking something they really care about, they're using the technology to connect with lots of people, to influence where the markets are going, to influence what people are buying, and people are paying to make money. Absolutely. That's an entrepreneur, right? That's an entrepreneur. So this notion of tech and entrepreneurship is coming together in a big way, okay? It's coming together in a big way. And I give you again 3 examples. Again, these tend to be the larger companies, but all of those large companies today started off as being very small companies when they started, okay? When Microsoft started, it was Bill Gates and Wozniak sitting in a garage writing some code. It was just the 2 of them. If you take Steve Jobs, and if you follow Steve Jobs, as a lot of people do who are in the world of business, I mean, he's been up, he's been down, he was up, he was down. God rest his soul, he's passed away. But this wasn't something which is a nice, straight, smooth story all the way through. So what I'm saying is, whatever the sector is, whichever way you're going to go, there are lots of challenges, and these are challenges. There are lots of challenges that have to be overcome if you're going to be an entrepreneur. Whether it's a social entrepreneur, whether it's a business entrepreneur, whether it's a tech entrepreneur. But if you look across all of them, they all started small, and they all started with a very focused purpose. Very focused purpose. So you've been listening to me for quite a while. Let me see if you can take a few minutes to start to think through some of these. So it's really just, and some of this conversation may have already happened, and I heard some people say, I want to be a social entrepreneur, or whatever it happens to be. But just take a couple of minutes, talk to the person next to you, or have a think, where would you want to pitch yourself and your business? Where are you most comfortable on that spectrum? And whilst I've talked about these 3 broad categories of social and business and technological or technology, there may be other categories that you think, actually, I'm not in any of those, I'm in something completely different. And I'd be happy to hear what those are as well. So a couple of minutes, and then I'll ask what your thoughts are on that.
اي جار شريكك تعال
Okay, should we make a start? All right, so how many people here want to go down the social enterprise route? Is this on? How many people want to go down the social enterprise route? Is this okay? How many people want to go down the social enterprise route? 1, 2. What, any particular aspect of social enterprise?
Yes, actually, I'm thinking about opening a development center for the people after university.
Okay. Go ahead.
I noticed that most of the people stay till they reach their 50s or something. They don't know really where they want to work, how they want to work. They don't really have main skills about how to act in a work environment and so on. So I'm planning to do something of social assistance for those guys, so help them and develop them, so they will be more prepared, maybe in during the 3rd and 4th year of college, or maybe the 1st year after college. So to help them to be prepared more for the social life or the work life.
So helping students to become to improve their skills, to enable them to get a job or to be able to move on after university. Okay, thank you. I saw another hand go up at the back. Or maybe not. Business. Business. Yes. Tell me.
Training center. Training consulting center.
Try that one in there. Oh.
Training center.
Okay.
So me and Mahmoud, my friend,
Yes.
we have much experience in the field. She's a translator, and I spent 22 years in banking and investment sector. So now, after all these years, I'm going to training. I'm heading to training. I would like to share my experience and knowledge with others.
Okay, excellent. So training center. How about anyone into tech? Anybody thinking of tech? Yes, sir. Just hold on to the microphone. Yeah, just.
Platform for medical services.
Platform for medical services. Oh, I'll tell you, tech and medicine are huge. Massive, massive. There's a huge amount going on in terms of med tech, as it's called. But just about every other tech, ed tech, med tech, it's big. Medical services. Anybody who's found a type of enterprise which is not a social business or technological? Any other types of business that you've thought about? No, yours was a social enterprise, I think you said.
Also environment.
And environment, yes. Social environment. Excellent. So, if those are the different types of business, I thought it might be useful to kind of give you an idea as to what businesses go through over a period of time, okay? So just a very quick summary in terms of, I'm going to have to look at my, so just a very quick summary. So here's what happens, and this ideas are not new, but here's what happens to businesses as they start and as they grow. So on the bottom axis, going across there, is how mature is a business. And whereas you used to think about businesses being mature after 50 years, 70 years, now you're talking about businesses having to mature in 3 years, 5 years. The time has become far more shortened in terms of businesses, particularly businesses that are tech businesses or businesses that are in very fast-moving, fast-changing industries. This notion of maturity is not measured in decades anymore. It's measured in very short numbers of years. And going on the top are some of the crises or some of the challenges, if I were to pick on a previous word, some of the challenges that organizations face. Okay? So if you think about right down at the bottom left-hand corner, at the start of the arrow, that's kind of the first day any business gets created, okay? And usually it's 1 or 2 people or a small group of people that get the business started. And they are very creative, and they're very passionate, and they're very driven, and they're very determined to get this started. And businesses that make that start and get going, once they get to a certain size, and that size can vary, there is no fixed size in terms of revenues or employees or capital, but there comes a point where you end up with this thing called a crisis of confidence. For example, a crisis of leadership. And I can think of one airline, which was a global airline run out of India. And part of what and that doesn't exist anymore, and part of what happened with this entrepreneur who started the business, who was still at the head of the business, was that people didn't believe in that person's leadership anymore. And when there is a crisis of leadership, when people don't think this person, who even if they started the business, can't lead the business anymore, the business can really struggle. The next is this notion of direction. Where's the company going? When you get to a certain size, you start to think, what do we do? Do I expand my services? So if you think about Khan Academy, did he go from algebra to geometry or algebra to chemistry? That's a choice, right? It's a choice you have to make. What direction are we going to go in as a business? And at that point, very often, you end up with this crisis of autonomy. Who takes the decision? Who decides? Should the owner, the person who started the business, decide? But if the market has moved on, then maybe the owner is not best placed. Maybe the very person who started the business 3 years ago is actually no longer in touch with where the market is at the moment. So you have this notion of autonomy. Who takes the decision? So then people start saying, well, what we need to do is delegate. If we need to start to think about where all these decisions are going to be taken, how are we going to deliver our product or our service? So as the business grows, maybe the numbers of people grow, you're going to have to delegate. When the business is 20 people, everybody knows everybody. When the business is 200 people, nobody knows anybody. You see. So now you're in a situation of how do we maintain control? So if everybody has a budget, pretty quickly the business is going to go out of money. So what we then need to do is put some controls in place. Those controls become like red tape, they become bureaucracy. And so what you end up happening is as the business grows in time, they have a number of challenges that they have to face. And part of what I want to kind of get you to think about is when you're starting a business, you will face all of these sorts of challenges. And a key part of being an entrepreneur, a key part of understanding how you're going to get past that first hurdle is to start to think about and plan for some of this. So where is this leadership going to come from? Who is providing the direction? Who is providing the level of, who's taking decisions? How do we keep control of things but still allow people to be creative? How do we not lose that first level of creativity that we started with? How do we ensure that passion doesn't burn out as we grow the business? Okay. So what I want to do in this next bit is really just talk very quickly about the entrepreneur journey. So there is this view that an entrepreneur starts a business, grows the business, and gets really, really, really rich, right? And becomes a member of the Billionaires Club, right? That's what it's about, right? What else is this about? Okay? And actually, apparently, now being a billionaire, like there are just so many of them. God, it's just everybody's a billionaire. Yeah, can you see? Now being a billionaire is nothing. Now they're talking about, so who's in the 10 billion club, or who's in the 100 billion club? You see, now even being a billionaire isn't what it used to be. I tell you, it's not what it used to be. So this is the hype. This is what people say. This is why very often people go, I want to start a business, right? But the reality is, and if you look at the literature, the reality is that it's a huge amount of work. It's all this stuff about people made their money overnight. It's very rare. They may have become famous overnight. It may be that yesterday you didn't know about them and today you did, and therefore they have become famous because now they're in your mind, but actually it takes a very, very long time. Very often startups fail. Very often it takes 3, 4, 5, 6 attempts at the same thing to get this business started. Very often the ones, day to day, it's just about how do we pay the bills. Day to day, it's how do we pay the rent. Day to day, it's how do we pay the suppliers. Day to day, it's how do we make sure we sell enough today to keep going for tomorrow. It's a real struggle for most entrepreneurs. And I thought this next statistic was quite interesting. It takes about 10 years to really get a business established. So this notion that we can start this business today, and by next year we're going to be making masses of money, we're going to be making huge profits, and we're going to have lots of people working for us, so actually I can just spend the whole week at the beach. That's a lot of hype. That's not how it really works. Most entrepreneurs are actually have their sleeves rolled up, as they say, and they're working right inside the business, inside the nuts and bolts of the business. So if you are going to, as you are all planning to start businesses, this is about making lots of sacrifices in terms of your time and in terms of the amount of effort. And then there are the really boring bits. Are we there? Yes. And you've talked about some of these. These are painful. These are really, really painful. And yet every business in virtually every country has to deal with these. If you're in business, you have no choice. You have to deal with rent agreements and licenses and getting people, firing people, bringing other people in, suddenly finding they don't have, what they said they were going to do, they can't do. Or they're not doing well enough, and you've got to get rid of them. While at the same time trying to build a team, trying to keep it cohesive, trying to get it going. Websites, IT, I'm not going to read all of this. You can read this as much as anybody else. It's a full-time, 24/7. People who run their business usually are in that business 24/7. They are eating it, they're sleeping it, they're breathing it, they are right in there with it, okay? And I should know because I have one myself. everybody thinks it's going to be a brilliant idea that gets us started. And if I only have this one brilliant idea, it'll all work out. Everyone will love it. The banks will love it. The investors will love it. The customers will love it. The suppliers will love it. Everyone will love my idea. And actually, it isn't about one idea, although having the idea helps, but you don't have to be the first with the idea. Uber was not the first online taxi company. McDonald's was not the first hamburger company. Microsoft was not the first to come up with a PC. Google was not the first online search database. There were lots of companies that came before them. The question is, why aren't those companies here and why is Google here, right? Or you could say that for just about anyone. And so, actually, it's about a maze. Do you know what a maze is? When you walk in and you get lost, and then you end up in a dead end, and you come back, and then you start again. When you're thinking about your business, when you're thinking about getting your business going, it isn't a straight road. It's a maze. You are going to hit some dead ends. You are going to hit a point where you think, how am I going to get over this? I can't even see what's on the other side. Where you've invested so much in coming down this road, to backtrack makes it feel like a loss. And yet sometimes that's the thing you've got to do. Is change direction. Flexible. Somebody talked about flexibility earlier. It's about being flexible. So usually, one of the things that all entrepreneurs will tell you is learning to deal with failure is an absolutely essential part of being in, learning to deal with failure is absolutely an essential part of dealing with being a successful entrepreneur. There are lots of knockbacks. So let me pause there. Let's take a short break, and then we'll come back and move this on a bit. Okay, so welcome back. So I've been given some feedback, which is always good. I've been told I need to go faster, which is true. And I need to keep it at a higher level, which is also true. Okay, so just to kind of mitigate my risk on this, I should tell you that I flew in today. So the first part was because I was jet lagged, okay? And I didn't have enough coffee. So now I had coffee. I feel like I'm over the jet lag. So buckle up, as they say. We're going for a ride, okay? So the next bit's going to be a little bit quicker. But before I move on, what I wanted to do is just kind of put this one slide up because, you know, one of the things is why become an entrepreneur? And for me, the thing that came out when I was starting to read the literature is this notion of learning, okay? And I think one of the key things that's come out from some of the conversation that we had over here, as well as the conversation that I had with people during the break, is this notion of learning. And if you don't know how to write a strategy, if you don't know how to price your products, if you don't know how to ask for money when you're charging someone, if you don't know how to do these things, this is about learning. So if there is one lesson that you can take away, being an entrepreneur means learning on an ongoing basis. The learning never really stops. What I want to do then is move on to the next topic. So just to kind of step out of the detail just for a moment and say that when we put this program together, we thought, what is it that entrepreneurs need to know if they're going on this journey, okay? So this first session was really just an introductory session. It was to open it up to some more general comments. Now we want to, for today, for the rest of today, and for tomorrow, we're going to get into much more specific things. So today we're going to cover strategy and marketing. If you're going to be an entrepreneur, if you're going to run a business, then you need to know what your strategy is. You need to know what your strategic direction is. If you're an entrepreneur, you need to know about marketing, you need to know about selling. And some people are very comfortable selling, and some people are not. And if you're an entrepreneur, you need to, if that isn't an area of comfort, then you need to learn to sell. And the first thing you've got to learn to sell is yourself. Because every entrepreneur starts by selling themselves, okay? So it's going to become much more kind of techniques oriented. We're going to tell you kind of how do you do this between today and tomorrow. So today is strategy and marketing, tomorrow's finance and money, and then towards the back end of tomorrow, we'll talk about the operations of your business. How do you actually understand the operations of your business? And equally, how do you understand data and information, which is becoming increasingly critical to every business, okay? How do you manage your data? How do you manage your information, okay? So that's where we're going between today and tomorrow. So let's start by looking at this notion of strategy and marketing, taking them up one at a time. So let's start with strategy. So the first thing, if you read any strategy textbook, is it says you've got to have a mission statement, okay? You've got to have a mission statement. So what is it that you're trying to achieve here? What is your mission? What's your purpose? What's the reason your business exists? It answers the why question. Why should your business exist? And you need to have a really clear answer as to what that is. And so if you take some examples, and again, these are just some examples, there are lots of examples that are around. Well, those are some instances of organizations and some of their mission statements. So I'm not going to go through each one of those, but I'll just pick on some keywords, okay? Some keywords. For example, with LinkedIn, to connect the world's professionals. How many of you here are on LinkedIn? Show of hands? Yeah, can you see? Most people are on LinkedIn, and if you're not, I would suggest you get onto LinkedIn. And it's really simple. It's to connect professionals. That's what it boils down to. If you take another one, take ASOS. So ASOS is into fashion and fashion retailing, right? Particularly targeting women. And now if you look at their mission statement, it's not to target every woman in the globe. They're saying, actually, we want to just focus on 20-somethings. Right? So they're going after a particular age group. But show me, yeah, okay, now let me come at this another way. You know what they're saying, right? So 70 is the new 80. You know what I mean? 60. So someone who's 60, I'm not 60 in case you're wondering. Someone who is 60, yeah, actually it's more like 50. Someone who's in their 40s is more like in their 30s. Someone in their 30s is more like in their 20s. And let's be honest, if you're not in your 20s, if there is one age you would like to be, we would all like to be 20-something again, wouldn't we? Wouldn't we? Who wouldn't? Everybody wants to be 20-something. So when they say, we want to focus on 20-somethings, they don't mean that age in an absolute sense. They mean it in an aspirational sense. We all aspire to be 20 again. We all aspire to, don't look, I should be on a diet. We all aspire to look like we are 20 again, you see. So all I'm saying is, what's your mission statement? For your business, in one sentence, answer the question for yourself. And if you don't have an answer today, maybe think about it tonight. And maybe come and, be interesting to hear what your answer is tomorrow, once you've had a bit of time to think about it. What is the mission of your business? What is the purpose of your business? Okay. The second issue is around values. And values are really interesting because the values of a business usually reflect the values of the entrepreneur. And in the early days of any business, it is almost impossible to separate out the values of the business from the values of the entrepreneur. So again, look inside yourself, and if you haven't already done this, at some point between today and tomorrow, get a piece of paper out, and if you don't like paper and pen,
because that's so 20th century, then get your mobile out, open up the notes section, and if you haven't done it, write down your personal values. What are the values you believe in? And I give you, as an example again, just some of the values that very often companies use. The things that are really, really important to them. When you take everything away, when you take away all the products and the services and the money and the supplies, what is left of any company is its set of values. So words like innovation, creativity, loyalty, commitment, these are words, right? These are labels. And as my mother, rest her soul, as my mother told me from when I was very young, and she drummed it into all our heads, she said, words are cheap. Words are cheap. Actions are what matter. It's not the words. So when you say, my business has a value called commitment, what does that word mean? What does it really mean? And I'll give you two examples, right? Toyota with their supply chains, hugely integrated supply chains, okay? All the way down from the first tier suppliers, all the way down to the 5th and 6th tier suppliers, hugely integrated. Well, one of their main suppliers, one of their tier 1 suppliers, had a fire in their factory. And that factory and that supplier could not deliver to Toyota. Now, at that point, Toyota had a choice. They could have said, listen, your factory's burned down, you can't deliver to us for a year or whatever the time is, thank you very much, we're going to go to another supplier. And Toyota said, no, our commitment is to our suppliers. And if they are facing a problem, that doesn't mean we walk away from them. We will still continue to work with them. We will help them to set up another factory on a temporary basis so they can continue to work with us. Commitment. It's not just some word on a door. It's not some word in a book. It's what you live. It's what you do that matters. That's what separates out your values from everybody else's values. And people are not stupid. Your customers are not stupid. And I'll tell you how I know this. I know this because all of you are customers to other companies. And you are not stupid. You know when you walk into a shop or when you walk into a restaurant, you know when that shop or restaurant are living and delivering to a set of values. In the way they treat you, in the way they talk to you, in the way they greet you, in the way they serve you, in the way they deal with any problem you have. That's when you tell what the company's values are. It's in the things they do, not on the labels that they put up. So I would ask you, if you haven't already done it, sometime between today and tomorrow, when you're sitting calmly at home, cup of tea, pen and paper, or if you don't want pen and paper, get your little iPad out or get your phone out and write down what are the things you believe in. Okay? What are your values? Because those values are what will come through in your business. Let me give you another way of looking at your business, okay? Very often we get so caught up with our business that we end up looking inside the business the whole time. We end up thinking, what's going on inside the business? And actually, what we need to do is step out of the business and take a look of the business from the outside looking in. And one framework, one technique that you can use to do this is called the PESTLE analysis. And PESTLE stands for, I'm not sure what's happened to my throat there. It stands for political, economic, social, legal, environmental, technological. Okay, if you take in English anyway, if you take the first letter of each of those words, you end up with the acronym PESTLE. So if you're going to start your business, if you're going to start thinking about your business, then you need to think, as you have all done anyway, you need to think about what is the political situation, what are the regulatory situation. You need to think about what's the economic situation in that sector. What's going on? Is this a growth sector? Is this a sector that's on the way down? So medtech, for example, if you're talking about AI in medicine, I'll tell you now, there's only one way it's going to go over the next 10 years. You talk about fintech, you talk about finance and technology, there's only one way this is going to go over the next 10 years. So there are some industries that are growing. Equally, there are some industries, if you read the economic reports, if you read the economic bulletins that come out, you will be able to tell which industries are on the way up and which industries are on the way down. In the UK, in the last 12 months, vegan has gone like this. Suddenly, every restaurant has a vegan option. Where did that come from? You see? Customers, exactly. Vegans are like vegetarians, but even more so. Yeah, exactly. Okay? So vegans. Now, if you're running a restaurant, you could say, I don't like all this vegan. I don't eat vegan food. Why should I offer vegan food? Can you see? But if that's the market, and the market's growing, you could sit there and go, I'm not doing that. Well, yeah, you don't have to. You're losing a lot of money. You see? So you need to know what's going on from an economic point of view. What's going on from a social point of view? Where is society going? What is society saying is important? What are the trends? What's going on in terms of this whole millennial generation? All of these, 20 to 30-year-olds, and there are lots of them in the room here. What's going on with this generation? What is it that they want? What are they that they're saying is important? So what are the social trends? What are the technological trends? Whatever sector you're in, technology is going to touch you. And technology is going to potentially completely change your business. Whether it's in recycling or repurposing, whether it's in retail, whether it's in wholesale, it doesn't matter what business you're in, technology is just going to completely throw everything up in the air. And I've started a center on AI, looking at the effects of AI, artificial intelligence, on people, on companies, and on society. And we're just getting going, and we're just starting to look at what these effects are. And I'll tell you now, it's scary. Some of the things you're reading about are seriously scary. You can have a computer screen that has a camera, and all of us have computer screens and cameras. That camera could be reading our face, reading facial expressions, and when all these ads pop up, believe it or not, and if there are any psychologists in the room, you will probably be able to explain this better than me, our eyes will go to the thing that attracts us the most. So if there's an ad for a red dress, a blue dress, and a green dress, or a white shirt, a blue shirt, and a grey shirt, if my preference is blue, which if you open my wardrobe, it's either blue or white. It's blue, white, or black, right? Those are the three colors that make up my wardrobe. Well, my eyes are going to linger on the blue, not on the white, and not on the red. The pupils, yeah, exactly. It's reading the pupils. Can you see? And so, on that basis, companies are taking that data and saying, actually, Ashley's interested in the color blue. And all the other ads that come up will have blue jeans, blue shirts, blue suits, blue ties. Can you see? I mean, this is huge, okay? So think about technology. Think about some of the legal stuff, the regulatory stuff. There's no getting away from it. No matter where you are, there are going to be regulations, because that's what governments do, right? That's what governments do. And if you don't keep with the regulations, there are fines usually, right? So the governments love to fine. It's another form of taxation, at least in the West. Okay, so there are regulations wherever you go. Okay, so you need to understand what those are and think about how you can work within those. What can you do? And sometimes you can, and sometimes you can't. And the last thing is the environment. Increasingly now, how businesses interact in terms of the environment, in terms of the effects on the environment, is really becoming critical. So stop and think about what is the carbon footprint of your business. Think about what is the effect that your business is having on the environment. And whilst it may not, you might think, well, hang on a minute, the business is just me, right? It's me plus somebody else, my partner over here. What do you mean carbon footprint? That's for factories. What do you mean environment? But actually, stop and think about the environment. Think about what effect it will have on your customers, on your suppliers, but particularly your customers, if you did a environmental assessment on your business, and you were able to say, though, at the very least, we try to minimize the negative effect on the environment. It sends a message. It says, this is one of our values. We care about this. So all I'm saying is, you've got to think about these different aspects of your business. I'm moving on at a reasonable pace here. Okay, I'm moving on at a reasonable pace. Having looked at the kind of what's going on outside your business, now you have to come look inside your business. Everybody talks about this thing called strategy. Everybody says a business needs a strategy. And actually, it's absolutely right. Every business does need a strategy. So what I wanted to do is just kind of give you a little bit about where does strategic advantage come from? Okay, what does it mean to have a good strategy? So traditionally, there were two ways in which companies could be strategically differentiated. There were two ways in which companies could say, we are different from our competitors, okay? One was an economic perspective, and one was a capabilities perspective. And the economic perspective was all about understanding the industry, understanding your position in the industry, understanding your position relative to your competitors in the industry. And capabilities is about what is it we can do that they can't do? What is it that we have that they don't have? What is it that we can say, we can deliver this in a way that no one else can deliver it? It's about what we do and how we do it. And that's what gives you competitive advantage, okay? There are these two views which are kind of the traditional ways of thinking about competitive advantage. But what I wanted to do was also give you some, if I could move to the next one, please, is give you some more recent sources of competitive advantage. So things like data. I'm going to come back to data tomorrow, okay? I'm going to come back to data in a big way tomorrow. But data is a serious source of competitive advantage. How many of you in your businesses have a structured way of keeping all your customer contacts? So whether it's in a database or an Excel spreadsheet, but some structured way of having the name, first name, surname, address, amount they bought, when they bought, how much they paid. Where's that data with all your customers that come through you and have dealt with you? I see one hand going up. How many people can structure that customer data? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, yeah. So my question to you is, if you're not keeping track of your data, then you don't know your business. You really don't know your business. So data is a huge source of competitive advantage. Algorithms, do people know what algorithms are? So algorithms are like little computer programs, okay? They are like lines of code. Or to put it another way, it's like a series of what-if statements. So if you think about it, you know when you go into Amazon and you search on Amazon on, so let's see, house tiles. Say you want to do floor tiling, right? So you type into Amazon floor tiles because you want to see who's selling floor tiles, right? Sitting behind in Amazon is an algorithm, is a little line of computer code that says, this computer, in other words, your IP address, has an interest in floor tiles. And so they will then go and pick up all the ads related to floor tiles and bring those ads and pop them up in front of you. An algorithm is doing that. A piece of computer code is doing that. So I would ask you to think about, how can you put some computer code, where would that fit into your business and how you run your business? The Internet of Things. So now they're talking about everything being on the internet. How many of you how many of you can control the air conditioning from your phone? Smart homes? Smart homes are coming in. So now they're not just talking smart homes, they're talking smart fridges, they're talking smart microwaves, smart cookers. In other words, when the word smart appears anywhere, I can assure you one thing, be afraid, okay? Be very afraid, yeah? Because just as much as you are telling that fridge about you, that fridge is telling someone else about you as well. Be really afraid. How many of you here have Alexa, or I gotta be careful because I'm on camera. How many people have Alexa at home? So everyone thinks that when Alexa is sitting here like this, right? That's Alexa sitting there. That Alexa is not listening. Alexa is only going to listen when I say, hey Alexa, let's have a think at it. Alexa needs to be listening to hear me say, hey Alexa. So Alexa is listening to everything that's being said. All the time. Yeah. I should tell you now, I would never have Alexa in the bedroom. And I would definitely not have Alexa in my home, right? Can you see? There are some places you just want to have to yourself. You don't want anybody else listening. And it has been revealed that companies, I won't name them here because on camera, there are companies who are employing people human beings, to listen to those conversations. It is scary stuff, right? But the Internet of Things is coming.
It's no ethics.
No ethics. No ethics. Yeah. That's a whole different. Even the iPhone is listening. Absolutely, because Siri's listening. Because because you say, "Hey Siri," what do you think Siri's doing? Siri's listening to everything. So all I'm saying is, I'm not having a go at any one company, right? I just think you ought to know that. I've got to be really careful. We might need to edit some of this before it's
live.
It's live. Oh, great. That's it. I'm now going to be blacklisted in like 5 different companies. Okay. AI, I've already talked about AI. Okay, so AI is coming in terms of, so for example, in medicine, for example, they've taken thousands upon thousands of brain scans, right? One of those scans, and what will happen is, if you, God forbid, no, not you, if somebody over here needs to go in for a brain scan, and the scan comes out, then what can happen is that scan will be compared to the millions of scans, and they will then, the machine will say, you have X% likelihood of having a tumor or not having a tumor, based on all the data that we've got on scans so far. So you can begin to see that there will come a point in time where that person is going to be faced with a situation where their brain scan has gone in, and the computer over here says, don't worry, you're safe. And the human doctor over here says, I think you need surgery. What's the person going to do? Do you listen to the computer, or do you listen to the doctor?
To the doctor, I'm a doctor, please.
To the doctor.
I lose my job.
If you listen to the doctor, then you might as well take the plug and unplug the computer because that's no use, right? And if you listen to the computer, then you might as well go to the doctor and unplug the doctor. I'm teasing.
I listen to
Hmm?
I listen to the book. I listen to the book.
One says surgery, one says no surgery. What are you going to do?
No, I research inside. If I feel more convinced to
Second opinion, go and search some more, go and look some more. But at the end of the day, right? At the end of the day,
the doctor will use all the data from the scan or whatever, with the AI. But I mean, the final decision.
yeah.
It's human. It's human.
It's human. So how many of people over here, if they're booking a restaurant they've never been to, how many people over here use something like TripAdvisor or the equivalent to look at ratings? And when you're booking a holiday, booking a hotel, yeah, it's easy. What are you doing? You're doing exactly what that person has to do. You're looking at some computer and going, tell me where I should go. Yes, that's exactly what you're doing.
I read the comment, not the...
You need the comment. Yeah, absolutely. You read the comments, right? Same thing. You're going to a computer and you're saying, computer, I trust you. I trust you to give me the right information based on people's comments about where I should go. It's no different. Except with the brain scan, it's much more serious. But we are already used to trusting the computer to tell us where to go for dinner. And that's our generation. And I don't know about you, but when I was there, the internet didn't exist when I was kind of coming up. With my daughter's generation, she was born in the internet age. This is for her is just, that's how it is. The computer takes the decision, that's fine. So stop and think about where this is going from your customer and your marketing point of view, okay? Okay, I'm going to move on. Sensor technologies, they're doing sensors everywhere, okay? There are going to be cameras that will pick up and read. I talked about reading your face, reading your pupils. That's all sensor technology, okay? So sensor technology. And then drone technologies is the big one that's also coming through. So for example, one of my colleagues is doing some very interesting research in Africa. And if you can think about blood transfusions, okay? If you think about blood transfusions, moving blood is a very difficult thing to do because it has to be kept at a certain temperature. It can't get too hot, it can't get too cold. It has to be moved fairly quickly to where it's needed because very often the patient may well be in a critical situation at that end, so you can't take forever to get there. In parts of Africa, the road system isn't great, the transportation system isn't great, the refrigeration isn't great. So now they're talking about moving blood with drones. Because you can get the drone from here to there. There is nothing there are no major buildings in the way. And even if they are, they kind of can go up and down and do whatever because of GPS and everything else, you see. So drone technology is coming along in a big way. All I'm saying is, yeah.
Amazon is developing a way to deliver their products through...
Absolutely. Amazon is talking about delivering products through drones, you see. So all I'm saying is, this notion of competitive advantage itself is changing. And my question to you is, how can some of these technologies help you in your business, help you with taking your business idea and taking it to that next level? Maybe it will, maybe it won't, I don't know, but that's for you to kind of think about and how that might go. So I started outside the business, Pesto, and I came inside the business and I talked strategy. I said there are various ways in which you can get strategic advantage. And now I want to come down one level, so I'm going into more and more levels of detail in terms of how you think about your business, okay? So this is about looking at the objectives, specific objectives, objectives that are so-called SMART objectives. Yeah, things that can be exactly. So objectives that are realistic, objectives that are timely, objectives that are measured, you need to have some objectives. So if, for example, you've been doing something and not charging for it, and you have no, and so you've been giving your service or your product away for free, then perhaps one of your objectives is, over the next 12 months, I am going to charge on at least 10 occasions, or whatever the case may be. You see? So you need something which is going to be fairly tangible. So SMART objectives are up there. And I give you on the next slide some examples of some objectives. So these are just examples, okay? So if you haven't been charging for your services, then maybe you need to say, in the next 12 months, I'm going to charge, I don't know, 10,000, whatever the number is. I don't care what the number is, but you need some kind of objective, okay? And the objectives don't just need to be financial. You can talk about the customer service objectives. You can talk about new product objectives. There are all sorts of objectives that you can set. These are just some examples of what you can do. Right? So what I wanted to do in this little bit, is I just wanted to kind of give you a kind of some insights into, if you're starting a business or if you're running a business, if you want to kind of get your business to be on a more kind of growth strategy, then core to that, central to that, is having a clear sense of direction, having a clear sense of where am I going? And the strategy that you write is one way of getting that clarity of direction. And it starts with the mission, the values, very high level, but then you need to come down to things which are very specific. Things that you are going to hold yourself to account. When you're an entrepreneur and you set an objective which is, I'm going to charge. My glasses just fell apart. Oh well. If you're an entrepreneur and you're going to, there you go. And if you're an entrepreneur, no, I can see. I need them for reading actually. So as long as I don't have to read anything, I'm okay. I have to read the slides, and that's a different story. If you're an entrepreneur and you set your target as being, I'm going to generate, pick a number, 10,000, 1,000, 500, 10. I don't care how many dinars you're going to sell each month, and you have set that target, then it's your target. You have got to then hold yourself to account. You've got to answer the question at the end of the month, why didn't I achieve my own target? And that's a really interesting question and an interesting discussion to have with yourself. Because there's no one to blame now. You can't say, like if you're in a big company and there are thousands of people working, you can say, I missed my target because of that person over there in the corner. Yeah, you can always blame someone else. The thing with being an entrepreneur and running your own business like I do is if I don't hit my target, if I don't do what I said I'm going to do, I have no one else to blame. I've got to look in the mirror and go, actually, you messed up. You didn't do it. Okay, try again. Maybe this month you'll have a better month and you'll hit it. You see? But there's no one else to blame. And if after 6 months you still haven't got it, then you've really got to ask yourself, am I in this or not? What's going on here? Why am I not hitting my objective? Is the objective too high? Is it too low? What's going on here? Where's that commitment? Where's that drive to hitting that objective? Okay, where's the passion? Now, if you talk about passion, this is where the passion comes in. I want to move on because having your strategy worked out is one thing. You then need to understand your market, okay? You then need to understand your market. So what I want to do is spend a few minutes just talking about markets and marketing, okay? I'm going to start with some basic definitions, which I'm now going to have to hold really far away in order to be able to read them. Again, I'm not going to read everything. but I just wanted to kind of get you to focus on a few things, okay? So when we talk about marketing, the key words there are, it's a social process. Marketing is a social process. And the reason why that word social is really important is when you are marketing, you are dealing with people. You are dealing with individuals and you are dealing with groups. You are dealing with human beings. And that's a really important thing. We sometimes forget that what we are doing when we are marketing is we are talking about human beings who are at the other end, okay? So that's a really important part. It's individuals, it's groups, and we want them to feel like they want what we have. The idea is to create a demand for us. And if you're an entrepreneur and you're on your own, actually, it's a create a demand for me. So I run my business, I'm on my own, I'm one person. Actually, I'm selling me. I don't have a big organization sitting behind me. Please buy my big brand over here, you see. So most entrepreneurs are into, when they're marketing themselves. And if you look at what makes an effective marketing strategy, well, it's things like defining the market. Which segment of the market are you in? Who is your target audience? Who is your target customer? You've got to be really clear about who they are. And very often we end up kind of saying, well, what we want to do is we want to serve the country. Well, firstly, the country is not a human being, right? You see, so we've lost that first step, which is I can serve a human being, but I can't serve a country. You see, we've lost the human element out of it. So then you say, okay, I want to serve, I don't know, because another segment. I want to serve all school children, high school children even. All right? All, every one of them, in every corner of the country. Maybe eventually. But maybe what we need to do is say, actually what I want to do in the first instance is serve the 10 schools in my local area or in a 5-mile radius. That's my market to start with. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to try my products, try my ideas, see if they work, and then maybe I'll go further. You see? So you need to define your market. You need to quantify the value. So even if you say, I'm going to serve 10 schools, and I'm going to serve women between the ages of, sell clothing, for example, and my retail shop is going to target women between the ages of 20 and 25. That's great. So what's the value of that market? How many people will come in? How many in that age population in the country? These statistics are available. If your target market is women between the ages of 20 and 25, you've got to go to the Economic Bureau, you've got to go and read somewhere of how many women are there in that age group in Kuwait. And by the way, what was the birth rate 25 years ago or 18 years ago? Because 18-year-olds today, in 2 years' time, are going to be in your marketplace because they'll be 20 years old. So look at the birth rates from 15 years ago. And if the birth rates, as universities discovered in the UK some time ago, that for a period of time in the 1980s, the birth rate in the UK did this. Well, if the birth rate goes down, what happens to the number of students who want to come to university 18 years later? It also goes down. Can you see? And now all of a sudden we're in a reducing market. Likewise, you can start to think about who is this market? What's the trend of this market? If the birth rate has gone down 15 years ago, I can guarantee you your market segment of 20 to 25-year-olds for the next 5 years is also going to go down. This isn't rocket science. This isn't some fantastic maths or algebra. This is just sitting down and putting a few numbers down on a piece of paper. So think about what you're going to get in terms of your marketplace, right? What's your value proposition? How are you going to communicate this? And how are you going to monitor that value is actually created? And by monitor that value is actually created, for that reads sales. Are people, is your target market actually buying from you? Are they using your service? If they're using your service, you are adding value, you are creating value. If they are not using your service, then value has not been created. It's as simple as that. It's not rocket science. So what I wanted to do is kind of just give you some introductory ideas around marketing. And this is really, again, you know, the academics love this, right? Academics love having, on the one hand, you can have this, and on the other hand, you can have that, okay? Academics love doing this. And all I want to do is say, once I'm presenting it in that way, you know what I'm talking about, don't you? Yeah. Academics love doing this sort of stuff. But when I present it to you that way, reality, day-to-day, in life, there is no differentiation. Actually, if people end up doing both of them at the same time, okay? So there isn't, nobody has a purely product-led marketing strategy or a purely relationship-led product strategy, okay? Lots of people have to mix the two. You have a product, you want to shape the product, you want to think about how this product is going to be used in business, and then you want to build some relationships with your customers so they keep coming back to you and they don't go somewhere else. So this notion that it's either one or the other is, that's what academics do. When you're running a business, you probably need both. So what I want to do is just spend a few minutes here talking to you. If I could go to the next slide. So we're going to do this together, and we're going to do this really quickly. Don't press it. We're going to do this together, and we're going to do this really quickly. Okay. So I'm going to talk you through the two axes. Okay. And then I'm going to ask you some questions, and we'll work this through very quickly, right? So on the bottom axis, going here, is price or cost. Okay. Expected cost, yeah? Perceived cost, expected cost. On the vertical axis is value, okay? How much value am I getting from this product or this service? Yes? So, you have to be very careful, just press once. There you go. So, you see the little dot in the middle? You see the little dot in the middle? Let's say for a moment that that dot in the middle is your business. All right? That dot in the middle is your business. In other words, you are providing a level of value on the vertical at a price on the horizontal. You see? And therefore you are positioned in that space on this chart. And you see the little lines around you, those are your competitors. All right? Those are the companies that are competing with you, and they're kind of offering something similar at a not dissimilar price. So it's like going to a Costa Coffee or going to a Starbucks. You know what it's like. The coffee is pretty much, you know what you're going to get in terms of value. You know, it's going to be kind of hot. It's going to be in a mug, can you see? And you're going to pay a certain price for it. And the price is roughly kind of the same, can you see? Now, if you want to take your business, which is the dot, and you want to go and create, differentiate yourself, you want to make yourself really different from all those companies sitting around you, what are your choices? Which way could you go? What could you do with your business? And just to kind of think about this like a compass, okay? So if you said, go up, that's like going north. If you said go left, that's like going west. If you said go that way, it's like going east. If you said go down, it's like going south. So think about this like a compass, okay? So go on. What could you do if you were really looking to make your dot, your business, really different from all these people sitting around you? Which way could you go? North. Yeah. Increase value, increase value. So you could go north, yes? You could go north and you increase value. You could go west. You could go west. So you could say, I'm going to drop my cost. I'm going to keep the value the same, but I'm going to drop my cost. And companies do this all the time, right? If you think of retail companies, have you gone past a retail company where they'll have a big sign up saying, sale 50% off, 20% off? Yeah. And this could be online or in a retail shop. Every time you see a sign which says sale 50% off, what that company is doing is saying, I'm going west. You're getting the same bread or clothes or whatever it happens to be, holiday, flight tickets. You're getting the same thing, but you're getting it at a reduced cost. If you go west, west north, I'll come to west north in a minute. If you go west, leave the north just for a moment. If you go west, how quickly before your competitors catch up? If you drop your price, if you're an airline or whatever your business is, or if you're a retail shop and you say sale 50%, how quickly before all the other retailers around you can also put up a sign saying sale 50%? Very fast, right? Very fast, very quickly, almost immediately.
I guess it depends on the segmented, on the targeted segment of people. And if I'm targeting people with high value, so I cannot go low cost. I should concentrate on value. And if I'm concentrating on a vast of people poor, so I can reduce the value and reduce the cost and don't care for value that much. So it depends on the targeted segment.
It depends on the targeted segment, absolutely. It depends on the segment you're going after, right? And there are different segments in here, right? But right now I'm only dealing with the one choice, which is going west. And I think we've all agreed that if any company goes west, it's very quick before everybody goes west. All the competitors drop their price as well, right? So there's not really any sustained advantage. You can do it for a time, but then everybody drops their price. So everybody drops their price, and then you drop your price some more. What do your competitors do? They drop again. They drop their price, you drop your price for the third time. What do?
Break your back.
They break your back. They are undercutting the prices. You see, so there are some companies who decide that they are going to use this as a strategy for being in business. Keep cutting the price. And you keep cutting the price until
They kick you out.
somebody breaks either your back breaks or one of their backs break. Especially technology, exactly. Yes. Yes. So think about mobile phones. They all start at high price, and then very quickly they start dropping their prices. And every time you see it, and it's the same pattern. It goes over and over again. So that's going west. We talked about going north. The iPhone comes up with some feature, and then Samsung comes up with the same feature, and then Huawei comes up with the same feature, and then pretty quickly everyone's copying. So even going north is becoming increasingly difficult to do it for a long period of time because everyone else is copying. You see. Northwest, which is so heading in that direction is really the thing to do. So you cut your price and you add value. Or you add value, then you cut your price, which is the mobile phones actually. They come up with their next version, so whatever it is, version Z or version 12.3 or whatever the next one is. They go, this has all these features. Look, we're giving you more value. So they put the price, they go up, and then before you know it, they've started to cut their price. Tell me the products that go east, straight to the right. Which products go to the right? The price just goes up and up and up and up and up, and the value doesn't change much.
Cars.
Cars. No, cars no.
Antiques. Antiques.
Antiques? Antiques, yeah. Antiques could, yeah. Antiques go, if it's a genuine antique, absolutely. Antiques go up that way. The price goes up, it's the same thing.
Airline tickets when you
States.
airline tickets when you book late.
And airline tickets. Estates, the thing is with property and the price, oh, not good, okay. Gold prices can do this.
Medical services.
Medical services, yeah, in medical services, you can pay whatever price. If someone says that this is going to save your life, you're going to pay whatever it takes, right? Yeah. Necessities. Designer products, unique products, brands. Yes. Some types of products, organic foods, specialist products, may well, if you're willing to, yeah, you can keep putting that price up. And you can tell this because, you know, if somebody's offered you a Chanel for 200 dinars, you go, yeah. Someone said a Chanel for 10 dinars, you go, yeah. This is not, this one is, maybe a bit dodgy, this one, can you see? So, what I'm saying is that when you think about your business, you have choices. Okay, you have choices. You need to think about where you are today. What is your service? What is your service? What is your product? And what are you charging for it? What's the cost of this thing? And then you've got to think about, how am I, over a period of time, am I going to go west? If I'm going north, what is it that I'm doing to add value? What is it that is making the difference? What is it that is differentiating me? And can I actually charge for this? Okay. So all I'm saying is, you've got different choices over there. The next idea, what is the best? The best direction over a period of time for companies that have been able to do it is northwest. North and then west, and continuously adding value, and then
Adding value is the cost.
and that's a very good point. Adding value is a cost, and what these companies do really well is when they are adding value, right? When they're adding value, their sales are going up because the price is the same, but you're giving the customers something that they were not expecting, right? So you expect the sales to go up, which is why the mobile phones come up with these new versions very regularly. And the really smart companies, when they increase their sales, take some of that and they put it into developing the next product. They invest in developing the next service. They invest in putting the money back into improving what it is they are doing. Very often, what ends up happening, particularly for entrepreneurs, is they end up, whatever money comes in, some of it goes on the business, some of it goes on kind of, keeping, paying suppliers and all that stuff, and the rest of it gets spent. Yeah, and you see entrepreneurs, and it's great, but they've got like not one watch, they've got like 25 watches, and they've got umpteen painting, and they've got all this stuff, and it's great. That's lovely if your business can afford that. But my question is, if an entrepreneur is putting all their money into these things, and not putting their money, or not putting the business's money into research, into development, into innovation, into finding out what the next stage of value is, that's when that Northwest strategy comes apart. You do it once and you can never do it again. That's where you have to have a long-term view. Where am I going? Where's this business going? So you're absolutely right. It is a cost, but we've got to invest in the cost. If I could go to that next one. Thank you. So again, I'm not going to linger too much. This is really saying every business needs some kind of what's called a USP, or some kind of unique selling point. What is it that makes your business completely different? What is it that makes it, makes someone come back to you and not go somewhere else? I take it we all have our favorite restaurants that you go back to fairly frequently. Well, stop and think about those restaurants. That restaurant is doing something for you, it's delivering something to you that makes you want to go back there and not go there. Siri's listening. Yeah, absolutely. It's the quality of the service. It could be the quality of the service, the quality of the food, it could be the ambience, it could be the music, whatever it is. The experience, the overall experience.
The customer service.
The customer service. The pricing. That restaurant is doing, it's got a unique selling point for you. And so my question to you is, just as you can have come up with all these reasons for why you go back to that restaurant and don't go somewhere else, my question to you is, why are your customers coming back to you? Why should they come back to you? Yes. So I don't know if you could hear that. I'll just say, yes.
The example you mentioned before.
So my question is, you're absolutely right. It's because you are doing something, you're adding some value. Absolutely, I agree. My question to you, to think about tonight, there's a lot of homework here, right? You're picking this up, yes. Yeah, my question to you is, what specifically is bringing your customers back to you? I know the list. I understand the list. My question is, what's bringing them back to you? And you should have that list for yourself. You need to be able to say, the reason they come back to me in my business is because of quality. And I can tell you what quality means. The reason they come back to me is because I give them a higher level of service. What does that mean? I'm honest with them. What does that mean? These are all words. Can you see? I'm saying you need to answer that question for your business. Exactly. If I ask you to go to the next one, I thought I should give you some examples, again, from some other companies. And the idea is not that this is by any means the full list. This is just some examples to kind of give you something to think about. M&Ms. We all like M&Ms? No, some people, we all like M&Ms, don't we? Well, their thing is, it'll melt in your mouth, not in your hands. And that was big. Do you remember Smarties? I don't know if you remember Smarties Smarties started the little round things. But if you had Smarties in your hand as a child, and you opened it, it was like gooey, right? It all melt just with the heat of your hand. And then M&Ms said, ours don't. Okay, so it's different. I don't know. Expect more, pay less. 15 minutes. Where's that one with Domino's? People like pizza. If you don't get your pizza in 30 minutes, you get it for free. I mean, that's very simple, isn't it? You don't get it in 30 minutes, you get it for free. You don't need to be an Einstein. You don't need to be a genius to work out what that means. It's really simple. And now, virtually every other pizza company has to say the same thing. If you don't get it in 30 minutes, you get it for free. So whilst it isn't unique, everyone associates that with Domino's. It's their thing. That's what they do. If I can ask you to, thank you. I give you this. I thought you'd like that. You like it? You like it. You're talking about this during the break. I give you this as a way of thinking about your product and your service. And this is called the product life cycle, okay? And this product life cycle is not new. It's been around for many, many years. but just in case you haven't seen it before, I thought it would be really useful to just talk you through it. And what this describes are the various stages that any, if not every product goes through, or every service goes through. So right at the start, at the beginning, you have the introduction of the product. Do you remember the first time, and some of you may not be old enough, I don't think. Do you remember the first time, rather than going into the bank to get cash, you walked up to a machine, you put your card in the machine, you pressed some money, some buttons, and then the cash came out. Do you remember that? I remember the first time I did that, it was like, wow, this is fantastic. Yeah. And now, so that got introduced, right? And it was like, whoa, this is different, this is great. And so one bank started, many banks started, and the next bit is you have growth. Suddenly every bank is doing it. Suddenly they're all over the place, you see. Now you can't go more than usually 200 meters and you find a cash point where you can stick your card into a machine and get some cash out. So every product goes through the introduction, and then there's this issue of growth. And there comes a point, and time, as you can see, time is going on the bottom axis there, where it matures, where you reach a level where you don't need any more cash points. There is no place to put any more cash points. In fact, in the UK, they're now taking cash points away because they're saying there are just too many of them and we don't need them. There are some cash points that just don't get used because there are 6 in, within a few meters of each other. So what they're starting to say is you reach a plateau, you reach a level of maturity, and then you reach this point of saturation, right? It's everywhere, you can't get away from it. The full market is saturated with this stuff. It's completely full. There is no room for anything more or anything new. And then eventually you end up in this notion where the product declines. And this notion that cash points are being removed. In fact, now there's this big drive not to use cash at all, right? So you have the contactless card. Yes, so now everything's contactless. So you don't need cash anymore. They're trying to make it as easy as possible. And you can use your phone, thank you. I don't, but yes, you can use your phone as well to tap your phone and you've paid your bill. So you can begin to see that even something like the humble cash machine has a life cycle and eventually it'll go away. Every product has this kind of life cycle. And part of what you need to think about is, where is your product in the life cycle of that type of product? So if you're thinking of, I don't know, if you're thinking about a clothing retail business. If it's a clothing retail business, well, clothing retail has been around for a very long time. So which market? Where is your market? If you're talking about the 20 to 25-year-old female market, as an example, well, where is that market in its life cycle? Is it growing? Is it mature? Is it saturation? Are there so many retailers targeting this group that you coming in is going to be, well, there is just no more room for anybody else because the market is completely full. If you're coming into the market because you're thinking of starting up or you're running a food business, well, food businesses have been around for hundreds of years. Well, where is your niche, the food that you are offering? Is that a growth? Is that a mature? Is that saturation? Where is the food market?
It's like Pareto.
No, Pareto, 80-20. It's a bit like the 80-20. You could use the 80-20 rule here to some extent. But if you think of vegan food, food is pretty mature, right? Food is almost saturated. Tell me a type of food you can't get. In most big countries, most big cities, you can get some kind of food. But vegan food, Vegan food 18 months ago, nobody even heard of vegans. Vegans were, a bit strange. Who are these people? What do you mean vegan? They were a very small minority. And then it came into the market. People thought, oh, wow, this is a good place to be. This is healthy. It's environmentally friendly. It's good for the planet. It's good for all around. And before you know it, in that sector, in the food sector, vegan food has rocketed up, you see. So you need to think about where your product is and where that product is in its overall life cycle. Are you going into a growth market? Are you going to a flat market? Or are you going into a downward market? And that can have a big effect on your targets, on your strategy, on everything else that we've talked about, previously. Just got a few more things to get across. And the next bit is around sales, okay? And I think if there is one thing entrepreneurs don't do very well, and I have to say and hold my hand up and say, I don't think I do this particularly well either, so in case you're wondering, when it comes to my business, and that is selling, okay? And selling is about getting someone to commit to take your product or your service and give you some money in return, okay? I'm not very good at that. I'm really good at selling other people. I'm really good at selling other things. I'm really good at selling Brunel. I'm really good at selling friends and giving them all sorts of ideas. But when it comes to selling me, it's like, I get all shy. Oh God, what am I going to say about myself? People will think I'm all... And actually what we need to do is, as entrepreneurs, is you've got a huge part of what we do is selling ourselves. We're selling our business. Our business is us. That's what we're selling. So part of what I want to kind of get you to think about is this notion of sales. And the reason why sales is important, and there are all sorts of ways of thinking about sales, okay, in terms of account management and all those other things there. But what I want one thing on this slide. Sales are really important because sales tie into your financial objectives, okay? We talked about objectives. I talked about, so tell me how much money you want to make each month. That's a financial objective. That financial objective doesn't just happen to happen. It's not that suddenly all these customers are just going to turn up at your front door and say, by the way, here is all my money. Take it, thank you so much. Yeah? Customers don't do that usually. You say, you don't do that. Why should anybody else? You see? That financial objective, I want to invoice 1,000 KD each month. I want 1,000 KD coming into my bank account every month from selling my products and services. If that's your objective, that objective gets delivered by selling. Doesn't get delivered by marketing. It gets delivered by selling. So it's really important that you kind of get that. And so you can set all sorts of targets. You can decide by volume. So how many? I want to sell 10 dresses, or I want to make 10 presentations, or I'm going to have, 6 events, or whatever it happens to be. If you're selling food, I'm going to serve 500 meals this month. So you can do it by volume. You can do it by value. I'm going to sell 1,000 KD this month. I'm going to sell 500 KD this month. I'm going to sell 10,000 KD, whatever it happens to be. You can do it by value, okay? So there are different ways in which you can start to look at how you measure your sales. You can think about what the margins are. I'm going to talk about some of this in more detail tomorrow when Noof and I talk about finance and the financial aspects, okay? So I'm just going to touch on these here, and then we'll come and talk more about how you think about costs and margins and all that tomorrow. You can start thinking about, well, who is doing the selling? And different companies have different ways in which they go about doing the selling. Do you do it yourself? Do you employ someone? Do you have a team of people that go out and sell on your behalf? How are you going to pay these people? Are you going to give them a salary? Are you going to give them a bonus? Are you going to say, if you can get me 1,000 KD of sales, I will make sure that I put 200 KD in your pocket on top of everything else I'm giving you. Give them some kind of bonus, some kind of incentive, you see. So who is setting those, who's doing the sales and how you monitor that is important. And no doubt you have experienced, if I could ask you to go to the next one, so that should say offers and promotions. Okay, good. We're on the same page. All right. I'm sure that you have experienced these. You've experienced these. If you've gone past a shop which says 50% off, they're making you an offer, right? They're doing some sort of promotion. But equally, have you been into a McDonald's? Have you been to McDonald's recently? Or have you gone to a restaurant where they go, so you've ordered a hamburger, would you like some fries? Would you like a sweet? Would you like a drink? Would you like and before you know it, you've ordered the whole menu, can you see? Because what they're trying to do is cross-sell, right? This is like when you buy a washing machine. Starbucks, yeah, absolutely. They're offering you some flavors, or they're offering you a cake or a biscuit, or they're offering you some food to go with your coffee. You see, if you go in and buy food, they offer you the coffee to go with the food. Or if you're if you buy a washing machine, they want to sell you insurance in case it breaks down. This is all cross-selling, right? So think about, for your product, for your service, what's your cross-selling strategy? What are you doing to cross-sell? You see, so if you're doing training, for example, you can get up and just do training. But actually, why aren't you selling the consulting that goes alongside the training? Because usually if you've got inside a company and they're letting you train their staff, then typically you should be able to say, well, I can come and help you to do this stuff. Now you're selling the consultancy that goes with it. If you're doing consultancy, then why aren't you selling the training? Okay, you see, it works both ways. If you can sell the training and the consultancy, why aren't you selling the mentorship? Say you're the leader in your business. How are you dealing with all the pressures in your business? Let me come and help you to talk through some of those pressures. Let me be your sounding board. If you've got a pressure on you need someone to talk to. Someone who can be completely neutral. Someone who will tell you the way it is. Now I'm selling mentorship, you see. So now my question to you is, how are you doing in terms of cross-selling? What are you doing in terms of upselling? Upselling is you see, it's not difficult. Yeah, and you have a budget, and before you know it, they're saying, oh, everybody has that model, but this model over here, oh, now this is the model to get, you see. And so you went in thinking, I'm only going to spend, I don't know, 10,000 KD, and now you suddenly end up spending 50,000 KD. Making the numbers up. They've just upsold. You can look at it by region, by territory. There are all sorts of ways you can do this, okay? So where are you making these offers? Is it just in Kuwait? Is it in the GCC region? Where are you doing this? Where are these offers being made? I think we're due to finish at 9:30. And the last thing, that's to kind of get you thinking, oof, we're almost there. Is around pricing, okay? Pricing is a really difficult thing to do. Pricing is really difficult. And I'll tell you, the number of people I have met, the number of entrepreneurs, in fact, the reason I was a bit slow in the first start of the evening is I flew into Kuwait this morning, okay? And so I flew in having not slept at all last night, so I was a bit jet lagged, okay? And I had been 5 days on my feet running a program with 60 people, looking at skills and skills development. Okay, so it's been a long week. It's been a long week. You're meant to go, oh. Yeah.
We can go now if you want.
No. I don't want to. I'm finished. I'm waiting for the oh. Yeah, you're meant to feel for me here. Okay, so what I would the reason I'm telling you this is I was talking to the entrepreneurs there, and they were going, oh yeah, no, it's okay. There's no problem. I don't mind doing this for free because I'm not incurring any cost. Because it's only me. Because it's just me going to the company and delivering the service. Right? So there's no cost involved. A bit of petrol, but petrol's not that much. No cost. Stop and think about this. Huge cost. It's the time.
It's my knowledge, my time, my effort, my...
Everything. Can you see? So there's no such thing as free. There is a cost involved. There is a cost. And the cost at the very least. I'm going to this company over here, and I'm spending 3 hours in this company, okay? Apparently for free because there is no cost. But actually the 3 hours I'm spending here means I'm not spending 3 hours with my kids at home over there. There's a big opportunity cost. Massive opportunity cost. I'm spending 3 hours over here for free, and I'm not spending 3 hours over there helping my child do their homework. That's a huge opportunity cost. And we, very often entrepreneurs, don't think about this when they're doing their pricing. So what I want to kind of get you to think about, and there are various pricing strategies which are on here, okay? Skimming, we just talked about a little earlier. Penetration, so you drop the price, you go in really low, hoping that people come to you. There's a telecoms company in India called Jio, and Jio offered a mobile phone, smartphone, online for 99 rupees. I won't even begin to tell you, 99 rupees, like a pound. It's like almost for free. What do you think happened? Everybody dropped their Vodafone, dropped all the others, and came straight over to Jio. Suddenly, they're the biggest mobile phone company in the country. Why wouldn't you be, right? Now that they've got the market, now they're saying, think of all the things we can sell over our Jio phones, because we now have that market base. So they penetrated the market. They went from virtually nothing to massive market share. And pricing techniques. So one way of pricing is you look at your costs. So if you think about this product here, right? This product here, it's got some components, speakers. It's got some unit which collects the noise. There's something on the inside to make it all work. Every part of this can be pulled apart and costed. Every part of this device can be taken down to its basic components, and you can put a cost on every component in this thing. And then you can add up those costs and say, if that cost is, for argument's sake, 100 KD, well, I'm going to charge 125 KD. The cost plus 25. 25 is my markup. 25 is my profit. Okay. That's one way of costing. You can look at competitive pricing. You can say, well, what are other people charging for this? Other people, there's a price range. The lowest, the cheapest on the market is 50 KD, and the most expensive on the market is 175 KD. I'm going to go 55. I'm going to be at the bottom end, but in the range. I'm going to be 160 at the top end, but in the range. I'm going to be in between. I'm going to be at about 100, kind of not too high, that's competitive pricing. In other words, you look at what your competitors are doing, and then you charge. And the last one is target pricing. So there you want to target a particular outcome. You have a particular price point and a particular endpoint that you want to achieve. So you set your target and you price accordingly. It's just to kind of give you an idea of different pricing strategies, okay? And whatever pricing strategy you have, you need to think about that price quite carefully, because as we all are customers of someone, as we are all customers, whether it's the shop you go and buy your fruit and veg, whether it's the restaurant you go to, whether it's the clothes shop you go to, we are all customers of someone else. Think about it when you walk into that shop or when you walk into that situation. However they dress it up, we are all very sensitive to that number when they say it's going to cost X, whatever X happens to be. So you need to think about pricing quite carefully. And it has to be fair. Fair price. Yes. Exactly. You want to be fair to your customer, but you need to cover all your direct and indirect costs. And we'll explain direct and indirect costs tomorrow when we do the finance piece. You need to cover all your direct and indirect costs because you don't want to end up making a loss. Because loss-making businesses are not great businesses to be in. So here's the 30-second summary. No, that's okay. Here's the 30-second summary, okay? We started today, or should I say, Noof got us started today by talking about entrepreneurship and what it is to be an entrepreneur, to kind of get you orientated, to kind of get the conversation going. And then what we wanted to do was to talk about some specific things that entrepreneurs should be focused on. And the two that we covered today are on strategy. What's the direction? Where are you going? Where's your business going? And marketing. Marketing is about making sure your product's in the right place, positioned correctly, and sales is how you actually make sure that you monetize, that you get money for your services. And if I could ask you to take away a couple of thoughts. One, risk. Ask yourself, what happens if my business doesn't meet its financial targets? And if the answer is, it has no effect on me and my lifestyle, then I would say your risk is very low. Whenever our risk is low, we end up not doing very much because there's nothing to lose. It's okay. Nothing changes. It'll be fine. The scenario I give people is, imagine for a moment, you're in a situation where you open your bag or you open your wallet and you've got 5 KD left. Today's the first of the month. The next time you're going to get any money coming into your household is on the end of this month. You've got 29 days to go, because it's a leap year this year. You've got 29 days to go, and you've got 5 KD. That's all there is to feed yourself, feed the kids, clothe the kids, buy them ice cream, whatever it happens to be. 5 KD is all you have between now and the end of the month. Now here's my question. How seriously would you take the next call that comes through that says, I'd like to talk to you about your business and what you have to offer. I'm interested in buying something from you. When you've got that kind of risk and you've got that kind of pressure, I can assure you that that phone call gets taken very seriously. Because the risk of losing that job, the risk of losing that customer, is the difference between eating and not eating, paying the rent, not paying the rent, clothing the kids, not clothing the kids. When you've got that kind of pressure, I'll tell you, that doesn't half bring out the passion to make this business work. So when people talk about passion, I go back to one of the first words that we talked about entrepreneurship. When people talk about passion, it's about having this drive to make it work. Because it means something. And in this case, it means something for your family. So I'd ask you to think about this, and we'll pick up this conversation and continue it more tomorrow. Thank you for your attention, and thank you for being here today. Thank you very much.